cut to the intro. This is where I wish we had an intro. Anyway, cut to the intro. Here's the intro. In 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Spur of the Moment podcast. I am your host, as always, Justin Spurr, and I am joined by my co-host, the incomparable Jordan. Jordan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Jordan, every week, forgets that this is also an audio podcast, so when he makes faces, half our audience can't see him. But that's okay. He'll remember 1 week. He'll remember 1 week. That
No, that's why I also responded vocally.
I mean, that is true. So today on the show, we are going to be talking about...
Jeez, give me a little credit.
We're going to be talking some trailers for some things. You watched all the trailers I told you to watch?
Yes,
Excellent.
Yes, I did.
We're going to be talking about some Sonic the Hedgehog news. There's some interesting Sonic the Hedgehog news. We got some Tim Burton news because that's just going to be a thing now, I guess. And other stuff. And then, later in the show, comes our most difficult challenge yet. We are going to talk about how hard this was. We finally came down on the name. Obscure animation. We're gonna be talking about obscure animation. And we're going to play the game of, is this truly obscure? We're going to run through some stuff. We're adding a new segment this week called Rapid Fire, where we're both going to rapid fire through some stuff. And if you're tuning in, or if you're listening to this later, you can leave a comment, engage, and tell us, is the stuff we've talked about truly obscure? Anyway.
Like, have you heard of it? Have you not heard of it?
Yeah, exactly. So, with that, let's move on into the news. And not going to do this all the time, but there's we begin with a bummer with Carl Weathers. Carl Weathers sadly passed away at the age of 76. He is, you know who Carl Weathers is, right?
Probably, but just for the audience's sake, in case they don't, pretend that they don't.
He's Apollo Creed.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And the reason why I
see, I knew that, but they might not have known that. So
the audience might not have known that Carl Weathers.
So it was important to let them know, you know.
The reason I wouldn't have mentioned this because I usually leave celebrity deaths out because they're a bummer. But the reason I mentioned this is for our sake. We're Canadian. We're from BC. He was a BC Lion. He used to play for the BC Lions. Yeah. And I thought that was really
small
interesting.
World.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, but I thought, oh, is he Canadian? No, not Canadian. He began his career in the NFL. He was a football player, and then I guess, and I've heard of this before, some NFL players come up here and they play in the CFL for a while. So yeah, he used to play for the BC Lions. He's got a British Columbian connection.
See, the Americans would say that that's them stepping down in quality, but
I honestly don't know enough about football.
I honestly don't know, but it just seems accurate.
I think, and people can correct me if I'm wrong on this. Sports people who will play the sports ball. I think our football's harder because we have an extra down. But then I think maybe our field is smaller. They're different.
I have no idea.
That much I do know.
I just assumed that there had to be some difference between them. Otherwise, it would be like how our hockey leagues are like connected.
Yeah.
I would assume if they were 1-to-1, then there wouldn't be a Canadian league and an American league.
Exactly.
There would just be a league.
Exactly. There'd be like one Canadian team in the NFL, and people would be they're participating.
Yeah.
So
like hockey.
Yeah, like hockey. Although apparently I think I had heard the Canucks are doing well this year. The losers might win this year, Jordan. Who knows? Because let's just
try not to riot in the streets if they do.
I've tossed out TikTok videos with this joke so many times because I never like it. But I always say that my relationship to the Canucks is very similar to that episode of The Simpsons where Homer is like, there's like the isotopes, and it's like, the losers, and then they start to win. He gets really drunk, and it's like, yeah.
Bandwagon.
That's basically my relationship to the Canucks.
I'll hop on that goodwill bandwagon.
Yeah, when they're winning.
When they're winning.
So, did you watch? You watched the Despicable Me 4 trailer, right?
Yeah, it looks fine.
It looks like the fourth movie. That's what I would say. It looks like a fourth movie.
Like.
There was interesting stuff I had heard that was leaking about it. That's just not in this trailer. Like, they were like, oh, yeah, it's about how the girls are now teenagers. And I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting. It's interesting. But no, in this trailer, they're the same age. They're still, unless this is an instance of, like, the trailer is misleading us.
We do see him do a heist with what looks like a teenage girl.
Do we?
The redhead person that she looked younger than his wife.
Interesting. Oh, I think that might be a new character though. I don't think that's because I don't think any of the girls are redheaded.
I'm just saying it was an observation. A thing that I noticed was that it
Yeah.
looks like he's doing some sort of heist with a teen. Could be like his wife's niece or something
Oh,
for all we
maybe.
know.
Oh yeah, because the wife is redheaded. The wife is redheaded.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Because my thing is like, okay, he's got a baby now. Like that's not enough of a hook for me. Like say what you will about the third one, it wasn't very good, but at least it had enough of a hook of like, oh, Gru's got a twin brother named Drew, and the guy from South Park is in it for some absurd reason. Like there was at least something about it that like drew me to it.
uh, I don't know. I mean, it was fine.
My
That
favorite
one.
my favorite
It
thing about the third
This
one.
just to me, it's just kind of a continuation. It looks fine.
Well, yeah, I mean they've never not been fun movies. They're always fun movies.
Inoffensive is the word
Yeah,
I would say. Like it
yeah,
looks fine,
looks fine.
inoffensive.
But I wanted to see the girls as teenagers and him having to interact with teenagers. Like that's an evolution to me. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
I
And
would
then
agree.
I mean, if you want to give it where he's got a little baby Gru, okay, toss that in, and then he's got to deal with them as teenagers while having a new baby. Like that's an extra, and maybe maybe this trailer is misleading, and that because I don't know if they're in the whole trailer. They're just in the beginning, so maybe the beginning, and then it like cuts forward, and um it's now like oh the kid's like the little girl's age when they first met Gru, and like they're like teenagers now. I'm like okay, that's kind of interesting.
What I'm kind of hoping it is, and it's not going to be this, but what I'm kind of hoping it is and again I want to stress it's not going to be this, but if like they go into hiding because of the enemies or whatever, and they're in there for a couple years, and then yeah, we get a time jump, and the girls are teenagers. They've been living under like under the protective witness program or whatever for however long, and Gru gets the itch to do a heist, and that's why he's off doing a heist, and none of the rest of the family's there.
Well, the plot of this is that it's he's fighting. He's been brought. He's retired. He's been retired for a number of years, and he's come back from retirement because the bad guy of the movie, which is a new bad guy played by Will Ferrell, is like he breaks
Oh,
out of
so that is
prison.
Will Ferrell. That's
Yeah,
funny.
and which is like I think it's kind of dumb because they're playing it in the trailer like it's a guy coming back for revenge, and it's like why would you not then just bring back a character from a previous movie? Like bring back Jason Segel's character, or even more fun, bring back one of the bad guys from the prequel.
Yeah,
Have one of them
yeah,
come back and be like, oh, they're back
yeah.
for revenge, a big revenge, and they've been in prison
That
for
would
20
make
years.
that would make it more like make more sense
And also
narratively.
making the girls teenagers. I mean, yeah, I think they had to recast the one little girl in the second, by the second or third one, and the second one they had to recast. The only one who they don't have to recast is Miranda Cosgrove. So it's just like, yeah,
Yeah,
just you have to recast anyway. So like narratively, it's just more interesting that way for me.
I agree.
But yeah,
Could be
otherwise,
a
I'm like, this looks
could could
fine.
could be a thing where they can't age up the characters, the girl characters, because Miranda Cosgrove is on contract.
Yeah, but you could have Miranda Cosgrove just be the teenager. She
But yeah, I mean,
you
yes
don't
and
have to
no. Yet
recast.
it
She's on
would
the cusp of it anyway.
it would be a little weird if the other two's changed and hers was still the same,
Well, I
just
mean,
externally.
yeah, but you just have Miranda Cosgrove play her in a way that's more adult. Um, it,
I
it,
don't know.
it's
I don't
fine.
know.
She's already an adult, so you just have her play her as an adult. It's just the one you
She's
don't have
not
to
an
recast.
adult. She's supposed to be
No, no, I'm saying
like
Miranda
10.
Cosgrove is an adult, so you could just have her. The other two actresses who played her were kids. The girl who played the little one was a kid.
Yeah, I get that, but I'm saying the character her voice would change as she grows.
Right, but what I'm saying
Her
is
voice, she's supposed to be like what? She's supposed to be like what? Like at oldest 10?
she's a
Her voice
preteen.
wouldn't stay the same.
She's a preteen, so she's on the cusp of puberty. So yeah, you just play her as Miranda Cosgrove, but older. That's all you
I
do.
don't know. I
Um,
don't know. I don't
and the only
know.
reason why they already had to recast the one little girl, so you have to recast anyway because they're not kids anymore. So like
Yeah.
you could maybe bring back the originals who are now like teenagers, sure, okay, but you still have to recast from the last ones. And
Yeah.
then trailer number two, that Megamind movie looks terrible.
It I don't know. It's once I found out that it wasn't Will Ferrell,
I
and
was like immediately, I was like, that's not Will Ferrell. And then
as soon as I started watching it, I was like, wait, he doesn't sound right.
And then what was funny is I immediately was like, "That's not Will Ferrell." And then I read the article that I saw it in because obviously it's from where I get all my source, where I get all my news sources, comingsoon.net. Um, and in the article that they had, it said that Will Ferrell was coming back. And then I was like, "But if it is, he's putting in the worst performance I've ever heard." And then I saw a TikTok that was like, "Yeah, him and Tina Fey aren't back. So like, what's the fucking point?" You know what it
Yeah,
reminds me of genuinely? I mean, obviously, my first thoughts when I saw the trailer, I mean, the animation looks floaty as shit. Nothing in that universe has weight. It looks cheap. It looks like it reminds me of, you know what I'm gonna say, because it's
the
dream.
Kung Fu Panda
It
shows.
reminds me of the Kung Fu Panda show. Um,
Yeah,
and that
I
movie reminds me of back in the day when and we're gonna get to those because one of yours is one of those, but one of those like not like out like movies that's just basically a pilot for the TV show. That's what that
yeah,
movie is.
yeah, it does.
Straight, it's got
Um,
straight to DVD written all over it.
which is disappointing because it was like, yeah, I saw it and I sent that to you and another friend who really likes Megamind before even finished like watching it, and then I kept watching it, and like my excitement and pretty
What that
immediately just was like,
trailer Yeah,
"Mm."
that trailer took me back to a time when they used to have commercials like that on my VHS tape. That's how dated that movie looks, and it's not even
which
out
is just
yet.
which is disappointing because I really like the first one.
I love Mega Man. I really would
It's
like. That was back when. I mean, we're gonna talk about that. But that takes me back to when DreamWorks used to take chances on shit, and like I miss their genre parodies, right? Like
yeah,
I miss the superhero parody. I miss the B 1950s monster movie parody. I like that when they were doing parodies and it was like they were trying to do something that was interesting. Their movies were good. Megamind is in my opinion, well, up until recently when with like Puss in Boots, where they've started and the bad guys, which really was taking some chances. But in that like Madagascar like era of like just lazy, sure, that's what this reminds me of. Penguins of Madagascar is another thing it reminds me of. It just looks just like not good.
my
Spend the money,
excitement was
make
pretty
Megamind 2 properly.
well, especially because everybody wants it. Like it is. Yeah, it's disappointing.
Yeah. Moving on. So you once again saw the Dragon Ball trailer I sent you, the brief little one.
Yeah, I have
I
thought. It
uh,
looks it
it's
looks
so
pretty.
pretty. It's
So
so
okay,
pretty.
here's what I'll say about what about specifically
It's
what you
the
sent
best
me.
Dragon Ball's looked in
I
years.
Here's what I'll say specifically about what you sent me. Independently, if I'm just watching that, I like it. It looks
Yeah.
good. It's pretty. It feels like Dragon Ball.
It feel
Now, it it as a part of what it's setting up, where they're all children and the story doesn't really make sense, and like, can they turn Super Saiyan? Can they not turn Super Saiyan? All those questions and the timing, like the where it is in the timeline and stuff, that makes me not like it.
yeah. Me as a I like
But
again.
as a piece of animation,
Oh, it's stunning.
it is stunning.
It's
There's no
stunning.
like
The money has
there's
gone
no
here, man. It's like, yeah, this is
yeah
why we took a couple years off from Super, so they can devote some time to this. Like, it's
yeah
and as a person who can't stand continuity, who like loves continuity, I should say, is really focused on it. Yeah, the fact that he's got the power pole, I'm like, fucking why? His fists do 1,000 times more damage than a stupid fucking magic stick. Are you kidding me? But like,
like
yeah, maybe it's
the
because I
only way
recently, maybe it's because I hold on just a second. Maybe it's because I recently rewatched Dragon Ball that I have this fresh new appreciation for the original Dragon Ball. That I
yeah
appreciate the purity of it. That I'm like, yeah, this is pure Dragon Ball, baby. It is. It's pure distilled Dragon Ball. But you
um
can't put the Super Saiyan back in the box, man.
no, I mean, unless they're gonna go the route where, but then this wouldn't make sense for the other characters. But if if they made it where just Goku was turned back into a kid, and the wish, like whatever it was, the Dragon Ball's wish or whatever that turns him into a kid, also reverted like his mind to
Yeah.
childhood, then okay, him using the power pole and stuff kind of makes sense. He can't turn Super Saiyan because he doesn't have those experiences anymore. You have literally taken the Super Saiyan and shoved it back into the box at that point. It'd be contrived and
Maybe.
stupid,
Hey,
but
maybe
okay.
I'd be
But
okay with it.
okay,
I'd be okay with it
but
if
okay. At least it would make a certain level of sense,
I
right? But then to me, at that point, if the rest of the people are all turning back into kids, okay, so Vegeta doesn't know any of them and tries to kill them. Piccolo turns back into being evil and tries to kill
I
them.
mean no,
You can't turn you
it's
can't revert all of their memories into
I
childhood and
mean
have them
no,
all still be
it's
friends.
just it's GT. They're adults in kid bodies. That's what's happening here.
Exactly. And so then that makes me go like, well, okay, then the rest of them have years of experience still, even if they're in a child's body, they know how to turn Super
Well,
Saiyan.
I mean,
They
yeah,
know how to do Kaioken.
you
They
do
know how to
see
do.
that you do see that in this trailer of like he's still hyper competent in his ability to fight things. He's
But
definitely
why does he have
fighting
a
as
stick?
I
Why
don't
does he
know
have a stick?
because they want us to think
Why does
they want us to associate the original Dragon Ball with it, which no one
why
will
does
do.
why does he just turn Super Saiyan? Or even if he can't physically turn Super Saiyan, why doesn't he use Kaioken?
I mean, maybe he. To be fair, maybe he will. Maybe they. I think they're gonna.
Uh,
He'll pull the shit he likes from GT, and he'll be like, oh, their bodies can't handle doing that because they're child bodies, and that'll be how they. Because yeah, Vegeta would just be Super Saiyan, or conversely, yeah, they'll still have Super Saiyan. But yeah, I'm a firm like you can't put the Super Saiyan back in the box, no matter how you try. And they've tried, and it never fucking works because that all people want from this franchise is transformations and energy blasts, and that's not what this is.
yeah.
The people who are like us and are like we love Dragon Ball and fuck it, I don't care. Yeah, it looks beautiful and I'm all in on pulling back to original Dragon Ball now. It's so weird.
Oh, no, I'm not all in.
I'm like when I was in my 20s, I'd be like, nah, Super Saiyan all the way, baby. But now I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's just it's doing something different. We've done. I think it was once I saw like Super Saiyan 4 Maximum Overdrive or whatever the fuck it was called. That's the point where I was like, yeah, we need to pull back.
See,
It's
see,
it's
for
it's it's
me,
getting too. We've escalated this too high. It's stop
I
being believable.
I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree. But my thing is that this show, while it looks good, doesn't make sense.
No,
And that's my issue with it. My issue isn't that they're trying to do Dragon Ball. If they did Dragon Ball, if they did this in a way that made sense,
yeah.
like if they
You're
did,
right.
I
If it
don't
was
know,
just Goku, if it was,
like if they,
it's all of them.
it's
And to be
all of
fair, we
them
don't know that it's all of them the whole time. It might just be.
still.
It might be. But no, there's the fact that it's all of them. Like when I initially heard the pitch for it, it was just Goku and it was just Supreme Kai who got whammied by this. And I'm like, okay, I don't love it, but if we want to let Akira Toriyama take a stab at Dragon Ball GT, that's a different take on GT. Cool, whatever, fine, let's do it. And it's like a little mini 10 episode side adventure but it's like no, that once they were like, oh no, this is supposed to be like, even though Jake tried, our friends at the Arate and Average Intelligence podcast, Jake, he when I put to him, oh, it can't be, it takes place between end of Z but beginning of Super, he said, well, that can't be because of because Supreme Kai's is in the trailer, and he doesn't get, they don't get separated till like a ways into Super. But Toei and Akira Toriyama have said that. I saw multiple sources that said that. So it's one of those, we won't know it until it comes out what this is. I'm holding back my judgment, and I'm tentatively excited because Akira Toriyama is involved. If Akira Toriyama wasn't involved, because what I discovered when I was watching all of this is Dragon Ball is only good when he writes it. It's only good when he writes it. Dragon Ball Super is dreck. It's not. It's awful because it's fan fiction. It's glorified fan fiction, and Dragon Ball Superhero that reignited my love for Dragon Ball. I love that movie so much. It reignited. I was at a point where I was like, I don't think I like Dragon Ball anymore, and then I love that movie so much. It's the direction I want the franchise to go in. It's like everything that I feel like Dragon Ball should be right now. I think it needs to dial back from transformations that don't make any sense anymore. Okay, like they just don't make any sense anymore because they can't, or they need to move it out of the timeline it's in.
Um, I, I I'm gonna be honest. I'm not excited for this show. It makes no sense to me,
No,
and
no, no.
that immediately turns me
I
off.
never said I was excited. I
Um,
said I was cautiously optimistic, and I was giving it a chance because of who's involved in it.
that's fair. I'm not.
It gets benefit of the
Um,
doubt.
I'm not.
It wouldn't have gotten benefit of the doubt had if Dragon Ball Superhero were bad. Like if it were not like a phenomenal, like a good Dragon Ball movie, like then we'd be having an entirely different conversation. But
That's fair.
that movie for me, that movie in my opinion saved the franchise. Truly saved the
That's
franchise.
that's fair, and
But that having been
it's
said,
just for me, it just comes down to it doesn't make sense, and that immediately turns me off.
it doesn't make any sense though on premise. But and to be fair, it only
Yeah,
doesn't make sense because
no,
of. But
exactly.
let me finish.
It doesn't
Let
it
me finish.
doesn't
Let
make
me
any
finish. Let me finish.
sense.
It only doesn't make any sense because of like, the occasion, not because of the show itself. So it only makes sense because of certain news articles I've told you that I read that said it takes place in a certain part of the timeline. It could
Oh,
not. It could
it's not
not.
even just that. It's the them turning everyone into kids.
I don't. Yeah, I
That
don't have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with
it
that.
that's so over the top stupid for me.
Yeah, but what else were they gonna do? It's the only way that they
Nothing.
can.
Nothing. They shouldn't have done it.
Yeah, but
I don't think I
they were gonna do a new
no.
show regardless. I'm one of those
Yeah,
people who.
it should take place after everything.
I mean, yes,
Do
yes,
it
yes.
do a new GT. Don't stop trying to do these in between things.
Just say this show takes place after Dragon Ball Z. Just do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Like I don't know if you saw. We're gonna transition, because it's tangentially related. We're gonna transition into talking about some Dragon Ball Z video games. Did you see? I didn't send this to you. I didn't send either of this, but did you see the new trailer for they're calling it Sparking Zero, but when it comes here, it's gonna be Tenkaichi 4.
No, but I know I'm aware that they're making that.
There was a list of like some of the characters, and like more than like 2/3 of them were just Goku and Vegeta variants. And it's like, yeah, this is why I don't like this franchise, because it's like they turn Super Saiyan into its own character that you pick, and I'm like, that's not fun. Like that, I don't want to just be Super Saiyan. I want to be able to build up enough power in combat so that I transform into Super Saiyan. That's where the fantasy of Dragon Ball is.
Yeah,
Like
I agree.
I don't want to just pick, like, it was like, oh yeah, Goku Super Saiyan Blue, Goku Ultra Instinct, and I'm like, no, I don't want to, like, kind of like it is in Xenoverse 2, where it's like, yeah, I don't want just a variant of Goku in terms of a playable character that's just
I mean, honestly,
a
I'd like
skin,
both
basically.
options. I'd like both options. I'd like the option where I don't have to worry about getting knocked back to my base form, and I want the option where I can transform
Yeah, I
between them
guess
all.
not.
I
No,
want
no.
I want I want both choices.
My thing with Tenkaichi, and look, I don't know, I haven't I after the third one, that was the last one I played because that game's boring for me. It's like the same 3-hit combo, 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 over
I
and
mean,
over, and
to
then
be
occasionally
fair,
you get knocked back, and then you got to chase after them a little bit.
to be fair, that game is the progenitor of Xenoverse and Xenoverse
Yeah,
2.
that's my only thing. It's like, and also like, what are
So
you gonna do?
I don't really.
Replay the same story beats for the 1,000th
Well,
time
that's where, like, for me, yeah,
in a fighting game?
I don't really see a point in a fourth one when you have like Xenoverse is a much more interesting world,
Yeah.
and it's the same and it's the same gameplay
Do
style.
Xenoverse 3. I've said it 1,000 times. Stop releasing
Yeah,
shite
stop
DLC.
doing DLC.
Well,
Do
what's interesting, speaking of DLC, did you see that they're doing the final DLC for Kakarot that they've released? They've announced?
yeah, it takes place like at the end of the season or series or
It's
what
the end of Dragon Ball
show
Z.
rather.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So here's my question. Okay, for this DLC that supposedly takes place at the end of Dragon Ball Z, is he gonna have Super Saiyan Blue?
I
Is Beerus
mean,
gonna be there? Are they gonna find a way to tie in Dragon Ball Super and finally be like, this is how it all connects? And so that way they don't actually have to do it in the show?
probably not, but I I wouldn't be surprised if they had a section of that DLC where you play as Goku Jr. Like and you have Grandma Pan, and it's him versing against Vegeta Jr. and
I
that's the
mean, that's
final fight of
yeah,
it.
I could see that only because I was gonna say I don't. Initially, as you were saying that, my first instinct was like I don't know, but um a well, I think we're gonna do. I think we're definitely maybe not that. I mean, who knows? Who knows? Because people are like, if this is do GT, do GT, do GT, and I think maybe they're gauging interest with this, um, and with the Dragon Ball one, which looks sick, by the way. I like. I saw some gameplay of it. I'm like, yeah, that actually looks interesting, and
Oh,
it's
the tournament one.
yeah, where it's Goku versus Piccolo. That looks
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
looks cool, and it's limited.
I saw a little bit of
Some of
that
it's
one.
a
Is
little
that out?
yeah, yeah, it's been out for a while, yeah.
Oh, I might have to download that one.
Um, but my problem with Kakarot is every time I want to go and play the DLC, I I make the mistake of starting with the game, and but I beat it. I'm like I just don't want to do more of this, and then I don't do it. But like I don't starting off with the DLC. It's like I always like to relearn that game as I'm going through it because there's
I get
mechanics
what
to it.
I get
Um,
what you mean.
but no, the one I think they were gauging whether or not they wanted to do a Dragon Ball game the Dragon Ball RPG that this was clearly meant to be,
Yeah.
and a GT one. I think they're gauging for both, and I think they might announce a GT one.
I mean, that'd be fun.
And so
I'd be down.
that's where I'm like, because certainly, like,
But you
what
know,
else are they gonna
this
do? There's
time
one fight in
this time
in
don't
that
call it
second.
Kakarot and have half the game you playing as other characters though, you know. If you're gonna do a Dragon Ball one, just call it Dragon Ball GT and then you can play as whatever character you like the
Well, with
story requires.
with GT and Dragon Ball, that's the thing. It's like picking Dragon Ball Z was such an odd choice for a game called Kakarot because with Dragon Ball you could absolutely play as Goku the entire game.
Oh, 100%.
He could be the
Definitely.
main character. There's enough decent like filler and side quests and shit in there
It-
that would be a great 3D action RPG. It would be so
I
good. I am begging you
I
make it.
I maintain they should have started with Dragon Ball, then done Kakarot or whatever the second game, and not call it Kakarot and just call it Dragon Ball Z,
Yeah.
and then do GT.
GT, you could also play as Goku the whole time because the entirety of that series involves him as a character. He doesn't fuck off like he does in Dragon Ball Z. He's there the whole time. The only
That's
other character they might want you to play
true.
as is Pan, but why? You could play as because it's like having to swap between character breaks the RPG element of it. You no longer feel like you're role playing because now I'm not playing for Goku for Master J.
Well, not
Anyway,
just that, but there's the trees and stuff, the
yeah.
skill trees and stuff. That's like, well, now I have to do a completely different
Yeah, and
character.
then it's like, I'm playing as Gohan now. I haven't played as Gohan for 6 hours or 5 hours or whatever, and he now has a you have to give him a shit ton of experience to catch him up to be the same level because it's a video game and you're midway through the game, so the characters have to be hard, but you can't level up this character because you're currently playing as Krillin or whatever. And it was like this is dumb.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but no, I'm for that DLC. Yeah, that's where you're like, oh, maybe they're gonna do the Goku Jr. versus Vegeta Jr. fight. What else? There's one fight in that section of the show. One fight, and unless you put in a bunch of side quests, who else is he gonna fight? So I feel like they'll do the one fight with Oob, and then they'll do the second fight with him in the lookout. It'll do like cut flash forward 10 years later, and he'll be you'll fight him in the lookout, and you'll at least do those two fights.
Certainly, you'll probably do at least those two fights. There'll probably be some side missions in there.
Probably.
If
Because
it's
it is
anything like the
DLC, so it doesn't have to be super long.
well, I mean, if it's anything like the Future of Trunks one, it puts you in a completely different map.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like, yeah, if it's only there's got
The
that's
Future
where it's
Trunks
like
one is
I
kind of
could
long though. Isn't that one like at least a couple hours?
I didn't beat it, but yeah, I think so. Um, but I could see it being a thing where it's like, yeah, you do the fight against Doob, and then they do a flash forward, and like that's all one cutscene,
Yeah.
which it puts you into the fight, and then they do the flash forward to whatever it was like. What was it like? 80 years later, where it's Goku Jr., and that's the one where you're running around the map
Maybe. I mean,
is as him.
I could see it only because this is the
Because they
final
have a
DLC, and it's called like
did they
Goodbye
have
Goku or something.
didn't they have like a whole like there's the whole OVA or whatever with him where he's trying to find his grandpa's
Yeah, but
ball or whatever.
that is confusing and
So
messy.
so to take that and turn it into a like a DLC thing,
Yeah, but
I
if
could
they were
see
gonna do
that.
that, they'd do it. So I don't know I don't think they do that as part of this. If they were, they certainly I think if they'd advertise it if it was more than one fight. But like the Dragon Ball one,
Maybe,
for
but
that tournament, it's like I think you do Piccolo versus Krillin, I think, and you play as Piccolo, and then you do I think you do Tien versus Goku, and you fight Tien
oh
versus
yeah,
Goku. So there's more than one fight in that arc that you can do. Whereas this one, it's like there's like one fight. I mean, maybe they give you a Vegeta versus Goku fight that doesn't. Maybe they add shit and you add a Vegeta Goku fight. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what else you do.
maybe
Anyway,
maybe Beerus will be there. Who knows? Who knows until it comes
who
out.
knows? So that is our Dragon Ball. Oh yes, our Sonic the movie news. Our Sonic the movie casting news. So, they announced. Well, they announced that they cast it. Her name, you wouldn't know it. I didn't recognize it, but I saw her picture. And she's a blonde girl who's been announced in a mystery role, which it's pretty evident blonde girl. Who do you think she's going to be playing? Who would you
For which?
speculate?
Sorry, for which is this?
Sonic.
Say that again.
For Sonic.
Sonic, blonde girl. She's Maria.
Probably. Yeah, probably. That's what people think. But some of this casting is interesting. Um, the only one that would interest you is the girl who plays Jessica Jones. They announced her as part of the cast. They haven't said who they are, but people are speculating. I went Amy. Like she's clearly playing Amy because there's that rumor that Amy was in it.
Really?
But
I would have said Rouge the Bat.
that's what the rumors are. That's what I was just gonna say. The rumors are that she's Rouge the Bat,
I
which makes me
I
go.
could see it.
Okay, my thing with that is the more not that I wouldn't love to see fully realized versions of all of Sonic's friends, right? More of Sonic friends the better. But the more you add, the more you have to explain where they came from because so it's like wait, so is she from the human world or Sonic's world or another world? That's where I'm like with Amy, because she's a hedgehog, there's a way to like tie her in to it. And to be fair, they never explain Tails, but still, it's sort of implied that he's from Sonic's world. But
Well, I mean, they're from different. They're from alien planets.
yeah, I don't know. I just I to me it's more because her regular personality when she's not Jessica Jones is she's very sweet and she plays sweet characters. So like I could see either. I could see either Rouge or
Really?
Amy.
Because Breaking Bad and Jessica Jones would tell me that she is not a sweet character
I
and could
know.
absolutely
But
be
no,
Rouge the
no,
Bat.
no. Yeah, she could. I'm not saying she could. I'm just saying based on the other rumors I've heard from this, I don't think it's Rouge. I think she's going to be Amy. I think she will be Amy.
Guess we'll find out.
Because and she's of the announced voice cast. She's the only female other than this
It's
blonde
just
girl.
to me, the reason why I would say Rouge the Bat is because if you're bringing in Shadow, Rouge typically comes with Shadow.
I'm not saying she doesn't. I'm just saying in terms of adding characters, you got to think of this in terms of its functionality of a movie. I don't think they're like if they're adding Amy. I don't think they're going to also add Rouge. It's either Amy or Rouge. I don't think it's both. We're not getting both. And I think far more
Have
likely
they
it's going to be
have
Amy.
have they stated that we're getting Amy?
That's the rumor. That's the rumor. The rumor is that we're getting Amy.
I mean, I could see getting both.
I don't. There's no way I'm seeing.
Like if they're doing like an adaptation of Sonic Adventure 2,
No, I don't think so.
yeah,
I don't
I
think
could
we're gonna see
see
both.
both.
I think we're gonna get one or the other, and I think we're gonna get Amy. And also,
Of
Amy just makes more sense.
Of the two, yeah,
It
Amy
just
makes more sense.
especially because
I would
they're
agree.
probably gonna
But
turn her into a love interest for Sonic. I promise you that's
well,
coming.
certainly a stalker because that's her role.
I don't think they're gonna go in that direction. I think they're gonna go more in the because they pulled back from that like years ago. She's gonna basically be an iteration of. If she's in it, she'll be an iteration of what she's like in Sonic Boom, where she's like a strong whatever. She's not going to be like, and then they'll build an organic like. They're gonna subvert it. You're gonna expect her to be everybody else for Sonic, and it's gonna be like they're gonna have a relationship that they have to build, and that's gonna be. But speaking of people who are coming back, apparently Jim Carrey's coming back.
Really?
Yeah, shocked the shit out of me. I was like,
Huh.
what? But the thing is,
I
he
mean,
hasn't.
I'll believe it when I see a
uh,
trailer,
the
but
thing is, like, it was confirmed by an outlet, and they because Sega posted quick little. Oh, also another rumor is Hayden Christensen as Shadow, and surprisingly, I'm okay with it.
I'm not. Hey,
Surprisingly, I'm not
yeah, I
against it.
mean,
I'm
I
not
have no
against it.
reason. I have no reason to be against it. He's fine.
Vocally, I think he matches that character surprisingly
Yeah,
well. He,
yeah.
if I think of like, if I think Hayden Christensen, and I'm like, you know what, he does kind of sound like old school Shadow a little bit. I'm like, you know what,
A little
that's
bit.
not.
I don't hate it. I need to hear it,
I'm less.
but I don't.
I'm way more for it than I was Idris Elba as Knuckles. Although I love Idris Elba as Knuckles. Don't get me wrong, he's great.
Yeah,
I just it's
it's
like, on his
less.
face, you're like, you know what, yeah, yeah,
All right.
all right.
Okay.
And
Sure.
I think it's true because the where the thing where we found out that Jim Carrey supposedly is coming back, they released a little logo trailer, and you can hear what sounds like Shadow's voice in the background, and it sounds like Hayden Christensen.
Interesting.
I'll send it to you later. And then yeah, and then the little trailer came with a little tag where it was basically like, you thought I was gone, but I've just been underground. What you've seen from me is only a hashtag shadow of things to come. So that would indicate that Robotnik's coming back. I don't think that indicates that Jim Carrey's coming back. Until I see him confirm it,
That's the
I'll believe
thing.
it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it.
Until if I see a trailer with them, then I will 100% believe. But
Yeah.
until then,
But
yeah.
as much as I like Jim Carrey, I don't necessarily. I mean, I love Robotnik, and I'm not saying I don't want him to come back. I will love it when he comes back. I would watch 100 Sonic movies with him as Robotnik. I would watch an animated series where he does the voice. Like I'm all in on his version of the character. But like, I don't need him to come back. He did everything I needed him to do in that role. I
I
think.
mean, the only reason I want him to come back is because I want them to do a Sonic Adventure 2 movie.
Yeah, but
I
my thing is that.
I want I recognize that's boring. I don't care. I'm a basic
Oh
bitch.
no,
I want that.
I just don't.
I want to have a live action movie version of the moon blowing up and or the space station thing and the beard I want it to just look campy as hell. Oh my god, I want it.
I just don't. I mean, I think you could do that, and I don't think you need Jim Carrey to do that. I think you can be like the assistant, let Shadow out, and Shadow's the main. I just worry
Uh,
that it's Jim Carrey as Robotnik. I am concerned that he will overshadow Shadow, and it'll be a similar situation as to what happened with Knuckles, where he's in it a little bit, and he's not the main antagonist of the pick. Like I really want Shadow to get his due in this, and I'm concerned Jim Carrey will overshadow him. That's all. But I'm not saying I don't want him back. I want him back. I would love to see him back. I don't believe he's coming back. But I'm just saying I would be okay if he didn't. That's all
I
I'm
mean,
saying.
I guess for me, like what I kind of what could be interesting to do, what I would maybe do is with if Jim Carrey did agree to come back, is basically have him be I don't know how best to describe this, but like a metal Robotnik, where it's like you hear his voice and it's like a robot version kind of thing, like the
Yeah.
Egg Robo kind of thing, where it's like he's speaking through it, his personality, maybe like he uploaded it at the last moment, and his personality is on the robot. Then you could have him come back and do like the voice of it, and he can be a secondary thing. He's not really Robotnik, so he can do the secondary thing, and Shadow can still be the main focus.
I mean,
That would be
I
that
don't
could be
know.
interesting.
I would just honestly not want him to be in it like at all. Like referenced, he's gone. He disappeared. Other than to be like, oh, he disappeared. We don't know where he went. And then yeah, because if he's in it, I want more of Shadow's backstory, and I'm concerned that that's not going to happen here. Although that having been said, maybe they do a short film like that really good looking one that I saw on the internet. Or it's like that actually looks really good. Maybe do like a small little short film, and then okay, I just don't know that this one is the place where Jim Carrey. I don't think I don't know. I don't. We'll see. I think
I mean,
this is going to be the point where we start to be like this is a bad one. I'm concerned this might be the bad one.
I could also be okay if they didn't bring him back and they had the entire point of why the his little sidekick, his apprentice or whatever, agrees to work with Shadows because Shadows like I can bring him back or I know where he is,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. That's the thing that brings them together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
Like
think in
I
terms
could be
of
okay with
the
that.
only thing Robotnik but the only thing is and even then I don't think you need Robotnik there to tie him into being the grandpa. You could just be like, "Oh, it's Robotnik's grandfather." And that's how he got involved in the I mean, clearly they're going to do a thing where it's like, yeah, Robotnik's grandpa worked for Gunn and that's going to be the connection.
Probably.
They're probably going to do a better job of articulating the familial connection because once you're like in the movie it makes a little more sense that oh yeah, okay, now yeah, he's a human, he has a human grandfather and a family, and I know the comics went more into the connection of who like Robotnik's parents are and all that, so yeah, but I couldn't believe it. Yeah, he's coming back anyway. moving,
Allegedly.
moving right along. Apparently, Tim Burton is going to be directing a reboot of Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, which I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I feel like that's for him. I would. That's one of those ones where I'm like, yeah, let him do it weird. Let him make it weird. Let's get weird with this. It's a giant woman. It's already weird. Let's make it weird. Let's get really Tim Burton-y with this and make it weird. And
I could see it.
I can.
I
Yeah.
could see it.
I could definitely
Yeah.
see it. I was like, yeah, this is one where I'm like, you know what? Let him have it. I don't think he was right for Alice in Wonderland, but Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, I feel like he could accomplish this.
Feels like it's in his wheelhouse.
In further Tim Burton news, hold on. Oh yeah, so apparently they revealed the poster for Beetlejuice 2, which apparently is happening.
They're making a Beetlejuice too.
Yeah, it's directed by Tim Burton, and apparently it's going to be called Beetlejuice.
Oh,
And the
God. And
tagline is
then you got to have a third one, and it's got to be called Beetlejuice.
no, it's got to be called Beetlejuice, and then the third Beetlejuice is cut off because you always cut them off before they say it.
Right, so it'll be Beetle.
Beetle. Yeah, yeah, because you always cut them. You don't want them to say it, but apparently it's about it's got
And you got to have the whoever's playing Beetlejuice on the cover of the third one with stuff like this, Justin.
well, so Michael Keaton's coming back for the second one. He will be Beetlejuice, and the girl Winona Ryder and the mom are coming back, and there's Jenna Ortega is playing. It says Astrid Dietz, which I'm guessing is gonna be the girl from the first one's kid. I'm guessing is the connection here. And then
probably.
William Dafoe is in it, and he's a B-movie action star who died and then became a detective in the afterlife. So I'm guessing the story of this is clearly gonna be. It sounds like maybe Beetlejuice might have. Oh yeah, no, someone's playing the wife of Beetlejuice. Sorry, hold on. That's it. Monica Bellucci is Beetlejuice's wife. So I don't know what that means, but I'm guessing. My thing with the first Beetlejuice movies, they don't really explain what Beetlejuice's exact deal is, how the curse works, like whatever. But I'm guessing it's gonna be a thing of like the kid from the first one now has a kid, and that kid gets involved with Beetlejuice, and the kid from the first one is like, no, you don't wanna get involved in Beetlejuice, and then that's the plot of it. If I had to guess. It'll probably just be a rehash of the first one, if I had to guess.
I don't know that I've ever seen Beetlejuice.
Yes, we have. Because we used to think that movie was scary.
I don't have any memory of Beetlejuice, so maybe I blocked that one out.
We definitely watched the cartoon, that I can say. Oh yeah, so I saved this article about Avatar.
The live action one?
No. Avatar, the blue people one.
Oh, okay.
And apparently it says, the article is just, Zoe Saldana gives update on Avatar 3, 4, and 5. It says, this is James Cameron's legacy. And I'm just like, legacy project, sorry. And I'm like, I can't imagine. Not even as a director. Because, like, yeah, that's his baby. That's his pet project. Whatever. But I can't imagine as an actor committing to something for, like, 30 years being like, I will
Right?
help you make these movies for like 30 years of my life, which is how
For
long it will have taken to make these movies.
for most of my life.
Yeah, I will die making
So
Avatar
so
movies.
so how old is he?
Who, James Cameron?
Yeah.
I think he's in his 50s or 60s.
So he might die making these
Sure
movies.
seems like it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ugh, that's
These
rough.
okay movies.
That's rough, buddy.
So Among Us, they're making apparently an Among Us show, and they released images for it, which I'm not going to show you because it just looks like Among Us. And I just sort of saved it because I was like, you know what? Among Us is one of those games where I'm like, this would make a great animated series,
I
like an
I could
Adult
see
Swim
it oddly.
style, an Adult Swim, like, like a more like that kind of, like it's a comedy show kind. I don't know what this is actually.
Yeah, that's an odd choice, but not so odd that I don't see it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm
It's
the same
it's
way.
kind
Yeah.
it's kind of how it's how I would word it.
Yeah,
Like
it's like
I
Angry Birds, where I was like, why isn't this like a Saturday morning cartoon?
yeah yeah
I mean, they eventually made those
yeah
into bad movies, but it was like, for the longest time, every time they would release shorts, and I'd be like, why is it this like a
a Saturday morning cartoon.
Cartoon Network show?
Yeah.
That was like they released a trailer for they were making exploding cat show.
Or like when they made the Baby Shark show.
Well, the Baby Shark show came first, and then the song came afterwards. I'm pretty sure.
Wait, really?
I think so. Yeah. Like
I
the
thought it was the
song
other
is
way around.
the song is from the show. I believe. I could be wrong. I could be completely
Huh.
wrong about that.
Cool.
But yeah, they made Exploding Cat show, and Tom Ellis, who plays Lucifer on Lucifer, is God Cat, and I thought that was funny.
That's ironic.
Huh.
That's funny.
Sorry.
That is most amusing.
They apparently Reba McEntire is selling a pilot to NBC. It's a new sitcom, and it's about how Reba inherits her father's restaurant. And I'm looking at this, and I saved it because I was like, so is it connected to her original show? Like,
Is it
a
is it a
whole new
spinoff
thing?
or
I don't know. It just says it involves. It involves. Oh yeah, her business partner is a half sister she never knew she had. So I don't know. I don't know if it's connected to the original show.
cool?
Because that'd be kind of neat. And then to do like a reunion thing. To me, that's always the way you do this. Like whenever anyone's like reboot, I'm like, no, don't do reboot. Don't waste people's time with reboot. Do a sequel series. Everyone wants the sequel series because then the original cast can participate as much or as little as they want, and then they could do cameos and get paid for like a day or two, or they could be a recurring guest, or they could straight up just full on come back. Like, and then you can continue the story. You can find out where these characters are, and then you don't have to recast iconic characters, and you don't have to explain why people get older. Like to me, it's like
Yeah.
when they were talking about they're doing, oh, we're gonna do an Office reboot. I'm like, no reboot. No reboot. No, we don't do reboot. Requel. Requel is better. It's much better.
Is better. Is
It's much better.
better.
Exactly. Like you do when
Nailed
you bring back Jim and whoever is, you bring back some of them, you introduce new characters, and then you have the old characters pop in. Requel. Okay? Requel. Always
Or
requel.
not at all.
Or not at all.
Requel or not at all.
Requel or not at all. Don't bother with reboot. Nobody likes the reboot. With that,
Especially not if you're taking it from animation to live action.
exactly.
With that,
That is our news for this week. We are moving on into the sponsorship section of the show, which is where the sponsorship would go if we had one, but we don't. One day, maybe. Who knows? In the meantime, as always, this podcast is brought to you by the Arete Podcast Network and aretemedia.org. Please go to aretemedia.org. That's ARETE media.org to not only check out this podcast in audio form, but you can check out other podcasts. There's a wrestling podcast, musical podcast. There's another pop culture podcast called Toon Talk 2.0. They're pretty great. It's all good stuff. Also, if you want to learn how to make your own podcast, they will be more than happy to teach you and set you up. All kinds of great resources on there. That is, once again, aratemedia.org. Now, on to book reports. And we're this week, because this is an ever-evolving show, and it's my show, and I can change the rules if I want to. We are now adding a new segment that we are calling Rapid Fire, where we are going to go back and forth and rapid fire one thing that we saw that pertains to the topic of the week, which in this case is obscure animation. Now, before we jump into rapid fire, I should mention that this week's challenge was fucking difficult. Jordan, would you agree?
It was hard.
It wasn't so much the finding of stuff we had seen. It's of the stuff that we didn't see. That was hard.
That was the hard part.
And man, did I see some garbage.
Finding stuff that I hadn't seen that didn't just look like Barbie's dream house or Barbie's, or like something that you knew was gonna just be bad.
Yeah, or like it was like the straight to DVD. Like Barbie is a great example. Or straight to DVD part of a franchise where it's like the fifth one, and it's like nobody watched this, but is there anything substantive to talk about it? No, not really.
Nobody watched this, but there's probably a reason for that.
On to rapid fire. So I'm gonna toss one for my section of rapid fire. We're gonna be playing a game called Do You Remember This? Jordan, do you remember the show Sticking Around?
I do.
I watched the first 2 episodes of it. I would have watched more, but it was on YouTube and the ad breaks were obnoxious. But that show's remarkable. It's so simple in its animation. It's basically stick figures.
It's just stick figures, right? Yeah.
And the most incredible part of it was the fact that they got to say your anus every single episode. Like,
really? That's funny.
Like, they're like, there's aliens from Uranus. And
Uranus.
Like, I have a friend who I would say that all the time. And she got to a point where she'd be like, it's not pronounced Uranus, right? It's pronounced Uranus. It's not. And I was like, I don't care, Uranus. And yeah, it's a very simple show. And I was like, this is cute, this is fun. Is it obscure though, would you say? It's Canadian. So if you're Canadian, you're probably familiar with it. But for Americans, would Americans have heard of this?
Probably not. I would say for Canadians, it's not obscure. For Americans or any other country,
I put it to my friends,
probably.
And they didn't give me an indication as to whether or not they had heard of it, but they definitely never watched it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So okay, rapid fire number 1 for you, because I know you got some rapid fire. Keep it short though.
I watched. The first one will be the Sonic OVA, which growing up at our video store, it was called Sonic the Hedgehog, the movie.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's fast. It leaves me with many questions about that world. There's a certain point where they go to the land of darkness or whatever, and there's the ruins of New York. And so is that the future of our planet? Is that like what is going on with that?
I've heard
questions that will never be answered.
Some of them will. Well, you obviously watched the Sonic the movie American version, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you watch the Japanese version, it's obviously longer and split up into the 2 episodes. It's not cut into being one thing. It's 2 separate things, and they do explain more. I don't remember enough of it off the top of my memory, so I'm not going to do it here. But they do explain more, and apparently it's quite a bit darker too, and quite a bit more violent. That's one of those, and we're gonna get into this. And I guess we'll start off here by saying that, yeah, man, animation when it was hand drawn and there was effort put into it, and it wasn't all just done on computers. And this goes for Japan too, is stunning. Like the animation in that special is so good. It's so fluid. It's some of the best that Sonic has ever looked in animation. It's like that, and if we're talking about Sonic. I rewatched the opening bit of Sonic CD in HD.
Oh yeah,
and it's just so fucking fluid, and it looks so.
That's
beautiful.
What this animation. Yeah, that's what this animation reminds me of.
I thought it was when I was a kid. I thought they were connected. I remember so long. Yeah. I because I couldn't figure out what what that animation was. I'm like, what is this? It feels like it's part of a TV show. And I remember searching and searching. And it was the same thing with a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about today, where when I was younger, I used to be like, this feels like it should be a TV show. And it's not until you're older. It is. It's a 2-episode TV show. And it was, I think it was, they were trying to, all OVAs are trying to, they're basically the Japanese equivalent to doing a pilot. Where it's like they're gunning to do a full series. So there's quite a number of animes, and we're gonna do an anime specific episode. Don't you worry. But there's a lot of animes that begin their life as OVAs, and then they get turned into like I think Yu-Gi-Oh started off as an OVA, or at one point was an OVA. I think
Season 0.
That was an actual show, but I think there was an actual OVA. Don't quote me on that though. But I know there's a couple. Okay, my rapid fire number 2. In my do you remember this? Do you remember Ned's Newt?
That's the one where it's the purple newt and it turns into the big version that's kind of like it transforms into different things, right?
He's blue, but yes, that is it. Yes, that is he feeds him the magic. And it's really funny because they do the theme song where it's the 90s, right? So the theme song explains this is also a Canadian show. This comes from Nelvana, who we're going to talk about Nelvana a bit today. But it comes from Nelvana, a Canadian animation studio. Real quick. You know what? I'll do that as another one of my rapid fires. There was one thing we talked about that I did find out what it was called. When you say your next one, I'm going to just quickly Google it to find it, make sure I'm right. Anyway, sorry, I got sidetracked. Ned's Newt. It's in a genre of show where I call it's the genie. It's just the genie. He's just the genie.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's the 90s, so it does that thing where the theme song explains the premise of the show. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Whereas like he's Ned and he went to a pet store one day and he wanted a pet, but he didn't have any money, so he bought a little newt and the newt was useless and he got mad and he went back to the pet store and the pet store gave him magic fish food, and then it turns him into the genie from Aladdin. And I thought, generally that's what the theme song is. And they do that, so then they don't actually have to do a pilot episode where they explain the premise. That's so like Fairly Odd Parents. You never actually see the episode where he gets the Fairly Odd Parents because they do it in the theme song, so they don't need to.
Or Danny Phantom.
Although with the Fairly Odd Parents, that was actually in a short. Or Danny Phantom, that's another example. Yeah. Where they say that what happens in the theme song, that's because Butch Hartman came from Hanna-Barbera. That's where that comes from.
That's funny.
But yeah, so it's one of those shows. But except for this one, the first episode very much shows you the origin story of Ned's Newt. So it's like, why am I watching this in episode form? I already know what the premise of this is. I don't need to watch it. I don't need you to watch it over the course of 20 minutes. And yeah, he's just the genie from Aladdin. Rapid fire, your next one.
My next one was another OVA, which was a movie in my childhood, which is Tekken the movie, the animated movie.
So did you look? That one I don't know nearly as much about. Is that 2 episodes in the original Japanese?
It was 2 up. Yeah, it was originally 2 episodes. As I understand it, the cut comes. There's the point where they're all standing around the tower, and Hayachi does that speech about, you need to go out and fight each other, and those who make it to the center, and then it cuts, and then Kazuya is fighting a person in the very next scene.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
That's the cut. That's where the cut would be.
That makes sense.
That's where I said. Movie. That's where I said watching it this time. Other times I never really picked up on that, but this time I definitely noticed that's where the cut is.
I used to say that it was the best Tekken anime, and now that's not true. It's the second best Tekken anime, and the best Tekken anime is that show on Netflix that's actually good. That's an adaptation of Tekken 3.
Oh yeah, this one is kind of an amalgamation of Tekken 1 and Tekken 2. It's got the Kazuya wanting to toss Hayachi off the cliff and murder him, which is the Tekken 1.
Yeah.
And then the plot of Tekken 2 is Jun and Lee Woo-young going to infiltrate the island, and that's in there as well. You've also got some aspects of Tekken 3 because it came out at about the same time as that.
Yeah.
So you've got some of the characters that are fighting in the tournament are from Tekken 3.
Yes. And there's a reference to Ogre in there somewhere as well.
And you see Jin at the very end.
Yeah. And it's good. It's good.
So that's my rapid fire number 2.
That's one of those ones that I rewatched it as like I think a 16, 17-year-old, And I remember being like, I cannot believe Dad let us watch this. He tells me that
Right.
he didn't watch this first because there is some boobies in there. My next rapid fire. What was my next rapid fire? Uh, Henry's World. I watched like one Henry's World episode, and they're like 10 minutes
Show
long.
that show lied to me. It told me that carrots would give me
Yeah,
magical wish
that's
powers.
one of those ones where they say it in the theme song and then they don't explain it in the actual show how anything works. It's very funny. It's this is a show for 3-year-olds. Like, but I was one of those ones I remembered. That's one watching it as a kid. Or watching it now. It's like we were too old to be watching this when we watched this. Did I have? Do you have any more rapid fire?
I have one more.
Right. We have a combined one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your last one is the same one as me, right? The
Yeah.
McDonald's.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the last rapid fire, to wrap up rapid fire, this is perfect. And by the way, rapid fire isn't gonna be a consistent segment every week, Jordan. You don't have to do shit for rapid fire. If you don't have any rapid fire, you don't have to bring rapid fire. The only thing that's mandatory is the homework. The rapid fire is not a mandatory part of that. That's just for fun. That's fun sprinkling. But yes, we're gonna talk about to wrap up rapid fire. We're gonna talk about Mick Treasure Island. Which Jordan, tell them about Mick Treasure Island.
So it's a special where they have a magic like a magic book. It pulls them into it. And they do this. They loosely do a very, very rapid fire version of rapid fire version of the Treasure Island story, and it is a fun, cute thing. It feels like it could be the beginning of a Saturday morning television
like a pilot
show
for a cartoon. Yeah, it absolutely.
But I will say it was absolutely distracting that the bird character, Birdie, is voiced by Minnie Mouse.
It's just Minnie Mouse, yeah.
It's Minnie Mouse. It's the same voice actress.
It's just Minnie Mouse.
She just sounds like Minnie Mouse.
And what's interesting is I couldn't find. I tried. I spent like at least half an hour trying to look up production notes, trying to find a history, what this thing came from, what it was for. And remember how we were like, oh, maybe it was promoting a game? No, game has nothing to do with Treasure Island. So it's not promoting. It was just made for some reason. And I think it was. I think it was a pilot for a show because there's another short that came out 3 years prior, I think, in 87. I don't know what year this came out in, but it came out in 1987. And it's cheaper. It looks like a really basic Flash animation from like the early 2000s. It looks cheap.
Interesting.
It like they move at like 3 frames a second. But it's the same voice cast. And it's a similar kind of conflict of they're in McDonald land, there's a problem, Ronald solves it with his magic bag, which is interesting because I remember the magic bag from when he used to come to our school. Let me know if this was a thing at your school for anyone else, but Ronald McDonald used to come and do safety magic shows to our school. He came more than once. And they were always highly entertaining shows. He'd come out, he'd do a little dance as an intro, and he would do very basic magic tricks. And they had like an element of science to them. You obviously remember this, right?
I remember him having like a traveling one that like it would be on like one of those trailers that opened up,
yeah,
and it was a stage or whatever, and it was always like a big at a big event.
Yeah, it was like a big thing that he showed up to do. Man, maybe I should have researched. But he had a magic bag. That was part of the
I remember him definitely like it was a magic show. He would show up and he would do a magic show.
Very specifically, I remember the element of the magic bag. That's where the magic tricks came from. So it's interesting in the special that was part of his character, which made me think maybe those magic shows were promoting these specials, but these specials and it's this one, the Treasure Island, is surprisingly well animated. Like it's one of those ones where, and I discovered this with these 80s and 90s ones where they cheap out on the background animations, but they really focus on the character animations. So the backgrounds look, and also the McDonald's characters get all the money. Like the Treasure Island characters look cheap as balls, but the McDonald's characters are so fluid and detailed looking. Like I was taken by how detailed looking they were.
Yeah. Especially Ronald McDonald.
Yeah. I was.
Which it makes sense that he's the mascot. The budget would go to him.
Right. It's one of those like, I would have watched, and I remember being like every time I went to look for this because the fact that I found it so easily was remarkable to me because this was like a lost relic for like years. To the point that once again our friend Jake from Average Intelligence Podcast, he left a comment on one of our videos where he recognized it, and I was like, holy shit, someone else is familiar with this. Like it was one of those like I thought I imagined it for years. So to be able to sit there and watch it was kind of it was remarkable. Like oh
It
my
was a
god,
trip.
like
It was a
more
trip.
than most nostalgic things for me. It's like the stuff that was rare. Like our parents were really good. At least my parents were really good at finding things out of the norm, especially my dad. My dad he's really good at picking shit that's out of the norm. Um, yeah, he was really good at that. Anyway, so with that was rapid fire. New segment on the show. We can move into the book reports, and as is tradition, Jordan gets to go first. I do ask Jordan that keep the energy up for when we get to mine. That's all I ask. So
I'll try.
Let's move into item. And also, I'm gonna put some rails on this if you don't mind. Let's go with item number one of the because you want to start with the things you saw, right?
Yeah, yeah.
First thing you saw.
First thing, okay. I'm gonna rapid fire through this one because it's a long one that I could spend a lot of time talking about, but I'm not going to. First one that I'm going to talk about is a game that it's more obscure than it should be.
I agree.
It's called Toonstruck. Short version of it. Main character is an animator called Drew Blank. He gets drawn into a cartoon world. He has to try and find things that help him
Drawn.
get out of.
I see what you did there.
um,
Did you do that on
he has to
purpose?
find. I wish I could say that I did.
You genuinely didn't do that on purpose.
No, I didn't.
My goodness,
Um,
that's amazing. Continue on.
he gets drawn into a cartoon world where he has to find objects to, scavenger hunt himself
It's a
out of the world,
scavenger
basically.
hunt point and click adventure game where you play
Yeah,
you play as live action Christopher Lloyd, and it's fucking
yeah.
rad.
And this is a game that has a lot of voice actors that if you know animation.
You're gonna hear some voice
So
actors that you recognize for sure.
it's got Tress McNeil. It's got the guy who plays Homer Simpson, Dan Castellaneta, and
Castellaneta.
yeah, it has oh, what's his name? He did Five Goes West. He did Troll in Central Park.
Oh, Dom
Um,
DeLuise.
Dom DeLuise.
Really,
Thank
Dom
you.
DeLuise is in it.
Yep.
Oh, interesting.
He is the octopus.
Oh right, yeah, you're totally right. He is the octopus. And then obviously you've got Tim Curry as the main bad guy.
You got Tim Curry as the
Yeah.
main bad guy. It's got just a whole bunch of other ones that I'm sure I'm
I made a
forgetting
video
off the
about
top of my head.
how much I love Toonstruck. Like that, yeah, that is definitely one where to me it's a technical marvel that's ahead of its time. We should be talking about Toonstruck 4, and we should be talking about how we're sick to death of Toonstruck and we wish they'd stop making these games. Like that's
Certainly, it
that's
would have
what
been
I
nice if
feel.
they. Certainly, it would have been nice if they at least could have had the opportunity to finish their story.
Yeah.
Because that's my one downside with this is it ends on a brutal cliffhanger.
Oh,
Because and
absolutely.
here's a little bit about background information. This was a expensive,
Oh
as you could
yeah.
guess, because of the hand drawn animation and the having a live action person over top of it all. This was a expensive game,
Although when you think
and
about it, I wonder like what they had to get what Christopher like because everyone's like how did they integrate him so seamlessly? And like what they would have had to get him in there for like a day on a green screen or I guess by a yellow screen.
he's not the part that would have made this expensive. It's
No,
all the
it's the
hand
hand
drawn
drawn, yeah, for
animation
sure.
that would have made it
But I would
expensive.
love to see a
But
behind the scenes of how
as
he did
I
it.
as I remember from what I remember reading, this game basically had a holiday release date that it had to be out by, which is why they ended up having to cut the game essentially in half.
Yeah.
And so it ends on a brutal cliffhanger. And there's a lady who did a lot of the animation on it who has since come out on her YouTube and shown she had like records and stuff of animation from that second part that didn't come out, which I've since got to go and like listen to her talk about it and stuff and about where it would have gone. And it's disappointing that this game
Do
didn't.
they have enough of it remaining where they could reconstruct it and re-release it as a
As
director's cut.
I understand, about 70% of it is done.
Not enough to not enough to re-release
It
it.
it depends, because at a certain point, I don't remember what you remember from the original game, but you know how he gets injected with the mutagen that's turning him
Yeah,
into a
yeah, they were
cartoon.
gonna do a thing where
In
it slowly
in
turns into a
in
cartoon.
that in that second half, he was going to be a cartoon. So at that point, you just need Christopher Lloyd's voice,
Yeah,
and
but that's
and
tough because animation is so much different now. You would notice it if you reconstructed it. You'd have to do it the way it was. Yeah, that'd be tough. That'd be a tough reconstruction. But I would what I would
it's
do honestly.
possible though.
What I would do.
And this is the thing, about, like, if he's just a cartoon, if you have him turn back human at the end, that's tougher. But if you have him stay a cartoon for whatever reason, and I don't love this, but if necessary, with the power of AI, voices can be
You can't
matched.
see me, but I'm aggressively frowning and disapprovingly shaking my head.
I If it meant I could get that game in its
No,
completion
this is what I would
state,
do. This is what I would do. Truly. I've always said they need to bring Toonstruck back. I've always said that. Yeah, it's a great game. It's
or reboot it.
as far as
Like, I'd be okay with a
it's a
modern
fun
take on it.
afternoon. The way it is now, I want them to do a remaster, re-release, and like take it and pull it out so it doesn't require DOS. And so I can just
That's what's
put it on
that's what's
consoles,
frustrating.
release a console version of it, something, get some sort of re-release for it because it is an underrated gem. And like
That's what's
it like yeah, with the McDonald's obscure, this obscure, like not like the guy I stitched, he was like, oh, I'm gonna have to go check that out. That sounds really cool, and it's funny and it's irreverent and it's like we're in a place like I can't believe there wasn't a reboot of that in like 2005 2006 because
well.
that is 2000s humor. And I think
What's
we're
what's
seeing a resurgence of 2000s humor. We could bring it
the,
back.
the the reason why it hasn't gotten like an official re-release, and this is what's frustrating, is so back in 2012, I think it was,
The rights
a
issue.
Facebook, yeah,
Yeah.
basically, a Facebook group came up, which was like Toonstruck 2 petition and stuff, and one of the sound designers or sound engineers or whatever that worked on that original game, Keith Aram, commented in that group and like responded to it and was basically like, like, I'm fighting to get the rights back. Like, the company or whatever owns the rights to it, and they like, basically, different people own different parts of it. Some people own like the videos, some people own the audio, and it's all split up. And for years, he's been saying that he's trying to get it all back together under one thing so that they can put it out, like put out an HD remake, re-release,
Yeah.
whatever, and gauge interest to see if there's enough interest to make that second half.
So here's what I would do. I think it's
And there's never been since
I
then. There's never been any sort of sign of where that's at.
I think it's too late for that second half. As sad and as tragic and as unfortunate as it is, I think get focused on doing an HD re-release of it as it exists and do a sequel, proper sequel. Here's my pitch for a sequel. Okay, I'm gonna say two words. Okay, for Jordan, and maybe it'll tweak some people in the audience. Pitch for Toonstruck 2. Toonstruck Legacy. So
Okay.
it's about Drew Blank's son. He's got an equally and an appropriately punny name. He goes to the office that his dad worked at. It's been abandoned, whatever. He gets drawn in to the animated
So
world.
Tron Legacy, but with
Tron
Toonstruck.
Legacy, but for Toonstruck, and he goes to the Toon world, and it's different now. It can still be 2D. It can still be 2D and look hand drawn, but that way they can do it on a computer now. Or maybe it's a computer generated, like a Pixar style kind of world, because that's what modern cartoons are. And he has to travel through that world, and he has to go look. Yeah, it's Tron Legacy. He's got to find Christopher Lloyd, and either Christopher Lloyd has joined the Toon world and he's lost his humanity and he's just straight up a Toon now, or he's been trapped there and you have to rescue him. And there's
He's
an
a
evil.
he's a Toon now, and Nefarious and Fluffy Bun Bun have been waging a war with their cutifier and their Malevolator for
See,
years. And you've got parts of the world which are like there's like part of it's Toon, and right beside it is Malevolation,
no, see, I don't think we
and
bring
it's
back Nefarious. I think because I can. Well, A, you can't. Tim Curry's, you can't. And B,
uh
I think the bad. I mean, I know. I said
Nefarious's daughter then.
See, I'm okay with that, but what I would do is I'm going all in on Tron Legacy on this. The bad guy is an evil Christopher Lloyd. He got hit by like an updated version of the Malevolator, and the bad guy is there's a now an evil Christopher Lloyd, and he's
You
separate
don't
from the
even
regular.
need a you don't even need an updated version of the Malevolator. You just have it where it hit him after he turned into a toon.
No, no, but like because I want to do it
Because
where
the thing is that I love Christopher Lloyd, but he's not getting any younger. He's not going to be around
no.
forever.
See, I think
So
like
so so
no.
you have to have a creative way where, like, if he's hit by the Malevolator beam or whatever, for example, then if you can get the original Christopher Lloyd to come back and do the voice, awesome. But if not, he sounds different because he's a
No,
Malevolated
no, no, no.
version.
What you do is you what I would do is you split them. So like yes, there's an upgraded version of the Malevolator. It split him in half, and now or he got caught in between the Malevolator and the Cutifier, and he got pulled into two people. So there's an evil Christopher Lloyd, and he's Clue. From Tron Legacy, and then there's a good Christopher Lloyd, and he's bearded hippie Christopher Lloyd from Tron Legacy. Like I'm all in on the Tron Legacy thing. And it's just Tron Legacy, and then then you bring back have it be basically like this is the modern day, bring in a bunch of contemporary voice actors to come in, because obviously we can't get because to me all the voice actors who are in that original are all contemporary to that time. Get people who are contemporary to today, like get a Matt Mercer, you know what I mean. He's in my head because I'm watching Critical Role, but get someone who's good. I think that would be fun, and upgrade it.
I'd be down. But
Um,
that's my first pick.
what is your second one that you saw?
Oh boy, the second one that I saw is one that I feel like has been it's not even that old, but I feel like it has been collectively wiped from the human conscious, like the zeitgeist, whatever. It's called Delgo. And
Oh right. In my brain, I'm like, I thought he was doing a reboot. Like right, see,
no,
that's how forgettable this movie is. I forgot you were doing Delgo.
I thought about doing reboot, but I decided to save that
That's how forgettable Delgo is.
for another future potential choice. No, I chose Delgo, which, it's funny.
I
It
know
has
I've
all
seen
the
it. I
recipes.
know I've seen it.
It has the recipe, like all the recipe of a thing that should be better than it is. So, like, voice wise, it's got Freddie Prinze Jr., Jennifer Love Hewitt. It's got Val Kilmer's in there.
It's
Eric Idle's in it. It's got Burt Reynolds. It's got Michael Clark Duncan, for goodness
I mean,
sake.
you're wait. What year did this come out?
This came out
Because
in
that's gonna change
two,
whatever.
two, 2008.
Yeah, those are some C-listers. They're not A-listers. Like this is very much this is a jobber of a movie. It's a paycheck. You're doing it because you're doing it for the money. It's one of those.
Uh,
I got one of those myself coming up, so don't you worry. I got one of my own.
but it was panned by the critics.
Oh yeah.
So it had a budget of 40 mil, about roughly 40 million. And box office wise, it only made between 694,000 and 915,000. So that's not even like
What was its budget?
40 million.
40 million. And okay, let's
And
traditionally traditionally you
it made less than a million.
traditionally you double it for marketing, but I don't think there was much of a marketing budget. So let's say 60 million for marketing, and it made a million, not even a million.
It didn't even make a million.
That is, oh yeah, that bombed horribly. Yeah, that bombed horribly. Who made
So
it?
it was distributed by Freestyle Releasing.
So it's
Production companies: Electric Eye Entertainment Corporation,
yeah.
Fathom Studios.
So no one we know. That explains why it
No,
bombed so
no
hard.
one we know.
We watched this. We've seen this
Well,
movie.
we've seen this movie.
We watched it in
And
theaters.
it is. I mean, it's basically
We're
just
like the
Romeo
two
and Juliet.
people. We're like the two people who saw it in theater. I remember there's like a couple of
It's
moments where the animation looks cool. I do remember that.
uh,
I remember this. Well, maybe
it's
I might
cheap.
I might be conflating it, but I remember there's at least one moment where I was like, oh, that looked kind of cool. I do remember
Having
saying it
just
was bad at the time.
having just watched it, I don't think that we did, but that's besides the point. Um, it is. I mean,
It
it's
remains.
basically
It only
a
remained an art.
version.
Sorry, go on.
It's basically it's basically a version of Romeo and Juliet, where you have two warring houses that hate each other. You got the guy from the one house, you got the girl from the other house. They end up together. Except in this version, there's also an aunt who wanted to genocide the one side, and the dad on the girl's side was like, "Yeah, that's not
So it's also
no."
Pocahontas, is what you're saying. It's Pocahontas
Kind,
and Romeo and Juliet.
yeah, kind of. It's not very good, and the sidekick character of the guy is just he's just annoying. He's
Is
just
it
annoying.
is it one of those like is it one of those
Bumbling sidekick.
we're gonna talk about one of mine later, and that one is one of these. But is it one of those animated movies that's like constructed in a laboratory to like look good in trailers and trick stupid parents into taking their kids to it? Like there's an annoying
Yeah,
sidekick who
I
has one
I could,
liners which you would cut into the trailer. There's bad needle
and
drops.
he's like, whoa,
Yeah,
kind of sidekick. Yeah,
yeah. You're like,
yeah,
oh, there's the
I could
moment for the
believe that.
trailer.
I could believe that. Yes. It's not good. It's not a good movie. It's just not good. I see why it panned, and that's really that as the great Forrest Gump once said. And that's all I have to say about that.
So okay, we're moving on into the stuff that you haven't seen now.
Yes.
Okay, go number one.
So, so number one, we're gonna do the better one first. Uh, was called Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night.
Oh, so go playing our game. Of the ones thus far, let us know, are any of these obscure? Have you heard of them? Have you not heard of them? Continue to play
Have
along
you
along at home.
have you watched them?
I don't think you've heard of this Pinocchio movie, though. I doubt it. Go on.
It's made by Filmation.
Oh yeah, it is a
It's
filmation joint. Yeah,
so it might you might have.
I like filmation. I
Um,
grew up watching filmation stuff, so I like
it
filmation. It's
it
cheap looking though.
has
They're cheap. They do their stuff on the cheap.
It has some names in there that some people, might recognize. Scott Grimes as Pinocchio. You've got James Earl Jones as the Emperor of the Night, and man, that character is intense. Uh, you've got Don Knotts,
Oh
who
yeah.
I think is fairly
So
well
this
known.
is this is in the 1980s. Then that's when this came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. If Don Knotts
Uh,
is in there, it's in the 1980s.
Tom Bosley, Ricky Lee Jones, Ed Asner, Frank Welker. All the good ones. And so okay. It's funny because it takes place after the normal story of Pinocchio, I assume, because he's already a boy.
So then, what
Like
makes it
he's
Pinocchio then? I don't understand. Why
well,
call
see
it
that
Pinocchio?
because because he is Pinocchio.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's not going to tell the
But
story
but
of
so
Pinocchio,
so
what's the point?
but see that's what's funny is does it does tell the story of Pinocchio, which makes it weird that he's a human boy because it's like it has a lot of similar beats to the story of Pinocchio. So like he gets tricked in this one instead of getting tricked by a fox and a cat, he gets tricked by a raccoon and a monkey. But he still gets tricked by animal characters in a world where humans exist. There's a scene where he's supposed to be delivering this doesn't matter what it is, but this expensive jewelry case to the mayor. And he instead and Geppetto, his father, is very much like there's a carnival in town. Don't go to the carnival. Like finger waggy. Don't go to the carnival. Deliver. You're technically 1 year old because in the beginning there he's having a birthday party. Geppetto's throwing him a birthday party because he's like, you've been a human boy for 1 whole year. And if it's anything like in the actual story, Pinocchio is alive for a few days
Yeah.
before he gets turned into a human boy. So he's like, you're getting older. You're like I can give you a little bit of responsibility. You can take this to the mayor. So he's 1 year old, and you're gonna trust him to wander off through
I
town
mean,
and deliver this
he was
on his own.
born as a default, like I'd say 7 to 8 year old. So like he's 9 technically.
I don't know, man.
I'm
I question that, but just having seen it and his level of gullibility, I question that. I would say he's at best 4.
So is like Jiminy Cricket still hanging around? Like
We'll get to that. Um, he's having a party where he's like, Geppetto is like, blow out the candles. He's like, make a wish. He does, and he's like, I wish the blue fairy could be here so I could thank her for letting, like, for turning me into a real boy. Shows up, musical sequence, and she gives him like basically one gift or whatever, and that's when the character, which is like a little toy, a little bug toy that I think Pinocchio made, from what I remember. She brings that to life, and that is essentially
What?
this movie's
But
version
but
of
what?
Jiminy
But
Cricket.
what happened to the original Jiminy Cricket?
I don't think there was one.
But he but but, but what what that
So
what?
anyway,
But did he not
uh,
go? Wait no stop time out time
that's where
out.
I say
Did he
this
not go
movie.
through the traditional Pinocchio story of being turned from a puppet into a real boy?
I would assume so because he's a real boy. I would assume that the blue fairy didn't just make the but
Or did
that
they like
perhaps it was.
bypass the original Pinocchio and she just turned the puppet right into a little boy? Like this
That's
is
kind of what it
confusing.
that's kind of what it feels like to me, because this story, like I said, does the beats of Pinocchio.
So like Pleasure
So
Island, Monstro, the works.
not Monstro,
Not Monstro, but Pleasure Island.
Pleasure
They
Island.
do Pleasure Island.
There's
This is
essentially a there's a version of that. There's a version where he goes to the carnival or whatever. So I have to go through this one a little bit more beat by beat because there's some upsetting moments, and I have to build up to it. But I'm gonna skim through it fastly. So he gets tricked by the raccoon and the monkey. Goes home with, basically they trade him the jewelry box for this fake jewel. He goes home with the fake jewel. Geppetto's like, bad. You're supposed to deliver it. I'm unhappy. You're grounded. He goes up to his room. Oh,
and he
also,
hits him.
at one point, does he?
I don't know. You saw the movie. I assume
Maybe he does. Maybe he does. No,
that's
I don't think he does.
that's
Uh,
it's the
you're
1980s.
you
It was
you.
okay back then.
It was never okay. Anyway, he grounds him for sure, and in the song when where the blue which the blue fairy had, like, one important thing that she kind of it's an important thing in this movie is that she's like, um you have free will, if you like, basically if you sacrifice your own free will, and blah blah blah, then you have the risk of turning back into a puppet.
Oh, so he
Like you
was a
can
puppet. So this movie is
he
confusing to
was a
me.
puppet and she turned him into a human.
This
And
movie is
that, like, so
confusing.
that's where I say it makes it seem like that original story happened. But anyway,
Cocaine's a hell of a
uh
drug.
so he's like, I'm giving Papa so much trouble or whatever. So he ends up going to the circus, basically, running away to try and go and get the jewelry case back from the circus or something like that. Anyway, point is that he ends up at the circus, and the puppet master that I guess recognizes him, because he's like, you look like this puppet that I used to have. So I think the implication, I gotta be honest, it was a lot last night. But anyways, he's like, you should dance for me, and like, so Pinocchio starts dancing, and then as he's dancing, like the puppet master is doing the music crank thing, which is making the music happen, and Pinocchio is dancing, 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 and as he's dancing, like, he's slowly turning back into a puppet, and the puppet master's like, ah, ha, 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 that's turn, like, you're gonna be mine forever, and like, he has the puppet things, the wooden puppet things that have the strings attached to it, and like the strings like magically go and start attaching back to Pinocchio as he's crying, going like, no, I don't want to dance. I don't want to dance anymore. I want to go home. And he's slowly turning back into a puppet, and it's horror. Like, I'm really truly underselling how upsetting this is, as he's like crying that he just wants to go home, and this horrible evil man is like laughing intensely, and the scene ends with Pinocchio is now like a full puppet again, can't talk or anything, and he like hangs him up on the wall, and he's like, "You're going to dance for me forever," and it's like, this is upsetting if this is supposed to be a children's movie, which it is. And so then the blue fairy turns up again and is like, You're lucky that I'm here. Remember, if you give away, basically, like if you give away your free will, you'll turn into a puppet, and I might not be here next time to save you. And she turns him back into a human. She's like, "Oh, thank you, Blue Fairy." And that's where Geppetto, not Geppetto, sorry, but basically Geppetto, um, G. Willikers, who is our version of Geppetto, not Geppetto, Jiminy Cricket. G. Willikers is Jiminy Cricket, is like, "Thank you, Blue Fair." And so then he's like, "We gotta go, blah blah blah," and then more stuff happens. Runs into the his animal people that tricked him again, and they go to start tricking him and take him back to the puppet master. And over the course of that, Pinocchio is just so earnest and trusting towards them that they're like starting to feel bad, and they're like, "No, like we actually changed our mind. We can't let you go there." They end up in the ship which is like a different world. It's weird. And so then they're on the ship, inside of the ship, and then this dude comes up in the gondola and like tricks Pinocchio into going to this place which is basically Pleasure Island. And that's where Pinocchio is drinking. It's like a greenish bubbly liquid which makes the world spin.
It's beer. It's
And
beer. It's alcohol.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, they don't call it that, but that's definitely what it is. And basically the whole thing was that they were like, "Yeah, you can go here, but if you go here, you have to sign this contract after, basically." And Pinocchio goes there, drinks, takes toys, partakes in Pleasure Island. It's the same beat as normal Pinocchio. And then it comes time for the bill to be due and him to sign the thing. And that's where the character turns into the Emperor of the Night, which is James. He's voiced by James Earl Jones, and he sounds intense. And he's like this big, like four-armed, like his body is a cape which has darkness inside it. He looks intense, and he's like, "You have to sign the thing," and then this whole conflict. Battle between him and Pinocchio. And Pinocchio's like, "No, I'm not gonna do it." He's the blue light, and everyone's happy, and it's a happy ending, and that's the movie.
All right. That's weird ass Pinocchio movie. Next one.
But
What's
it
your next
but it
one?
but it does all the beats is kind of the
It's a
point. So that's where I say
weird
it's
ass
still
Pinocchio movie.
Pinocchio, but it's
Let's talk.
not bad. It's
Let's
the
talk.
better one.
Let's talk about Brave Star.
Yeah, I suppose we should, shouldn't we?
So Brave Star is
Um,
bad, you said, because this Pinocchio movie didn't sound very good. Based on your description, it sounds like a bad movie.
it's the
So if that,
better of the
so if
two.
that's the good one, I hesitate to believe it.
Uh,
What the bad one must be.
it's not that the other one is bad per se. I think it would be great in 20-minute increments.
It's a
Uh,
It's a 90-minute pilot for a television show that failed. Is what it is.
yeah, like it's just it feels like
I'm.
you took 3 or 4 episodes of
I.
of a Saturday morning cartoon and made it into a very long movie
Yeah,
that felt
I'm
long.
sure it's probably like 3 or 4 episodes of the TV show that have been constructed together. Frank. So okay. So let's just for the sake of brevity and
I'm not gonna go through the story
what's
of
the
this one. I just
premise
have
of it? What's the premise of it?
premise of it is basically so there's the alien planet which is called New Texas, and that's the thing that I found myself laughing at a lot of the theming of this world because it makes no sense to me. So there's this alien planet where
Sounds like it's just
there were
Texas. It's
there were
space Texas.
yeah, pretty much. That's the idea. So there were these alien people that lived there that were alien Native American people
Oh no.
who all of their theming is Native American.
Oh
Everything
no.
their spaceship is Native American. Like it's just Native American. And then this
Space Cowboys.
monster monster alien thing shows up called Stampede, garners a bunch of power of from the rocks and stuff on the planet, and they flee the planet, and he basically blows up the planet, and then colonizers come there they name the planet New Texas, and they're all Western themed, and it's
Do you like
but
it?
they have space travel, but they still dress in like old Western clothes and have houses that are old Western, and everything is like theme, and they have like horse and carriages
But they
that are
have
like, but it's
but with space shit.
future,
But with space
but it's
shit.
space shit, and I don't under I but Why?
It's to sell
Like, this
toys,
world
Jordan.
makes.
It's to sell toys.
I know, but within the realm of this world, that it's just the. But and so then
It sounds
the
like a He-Man
entity.
knockoff, is what it sounds like.
So then the entity, the evil entity that was on the planet, basically creates his posse of like evil, villain of the week
Of course,
villains,
yeah, of course.
and so then,
Your
uh,
Skeletor and your
yeah,
uh,
your
this is
classic
He-Man.
ones.
I'm telling you, it's He-Man. That's what this is.
It basically is, yes. And so then, of course, the town is like, we have to bring in a sheriff, a team of sheriff, a whole army of sheriff. We have our one
Brave Star is your
Indian,
main guy,
our
and
brave Indian, who comes in. Sorry, Native
oh,
American,
he's
Native.
native. Oh, I thought he was black. I thought he was
No,
black.
no, he's Native American or
Oh,
Native New Texan, Native whatever this planet is. I don't know, Indian. Um, and he goes off and he meets one of the people that one of the native indigenous people, I guess that's the correct way of saying this, that were originally from this planet, and he teaches him to do like the strength of the bear, the speed of the cheetah, the
oh, so he's got superpowers. He's got yeah,
intellect.
yeah,
Yeah,
of course, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, of course, yeah.
And
And that's where he gets all his power-ups that were toys. Yeah,
yeah, basically
yeah.
that's where his by the power of
Oh, he's
Greystone
got his
comes
own version
from.
of that.
Well, that would be his version of
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
where he's
yeah,
like the power of the bear, and he does the super
yeah.
strength
Of
punch
course,
or
yeah.
the running fast one, etc. And but there's also he's got his posse of characters. So you have the judge who's the chick
Of
who
course.
is enamored with him, which is in my opinion, just a huge conflict of interest because he's the sheriff of the town, so he is the law, and she's the person that makes the law, and they kiss and are into each other. And so that seems like a huge conflict of interest. Then you have the little sidekick character who, like he's the snarf kind of
Oh,
character.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And then you have
Scooby
his
Doo.
horse. You have his horse, which can also turn into a man horse, but he's a horse that he rides around, but then he turns into a man horse who like he's bipedal, and he can walk around, but he spends most of his time just as a horse
He's just a horse.
that Brave Star rides around on,
That
which
just
to me is weird.
this sounds lazy. That's the word I would use to
It,
describe it.
yeah,
I
and
will say,
it
I will
didn't
say compared to the Pinocchio one, which sounds like it has an
it
ounce of
did
creativity to it.
it didn't pass the phone test.
Ah, the
And for
phone
those
test.
for those who don't know the phone test, for me, for both of us,
I
you
invented the
know,
phone test. Thank you very much.
yeah, but I've adopted it. Um,
You merely
it
adopted it. I originated the phone test.
if it can't if a thing can't hold your interest without you checking your phone for runtime or like scrolling through your Instagram or something, it's probably not a very
Yeah.
good
If
movie.
your interest is not held enough that you don't find yourself being pulled to TikTok or Facebook, it does not pass the phone test. I've had a number of movies not pass the phone test.
This
Uh,
did not.
quite often,
I
it
found
does not
myself
pass the phone
looking at
test.
my stuff a lot, and it was oh. Like if I could have watched it, like I said, in nice 20-minute increments, I watched maybe 2 episodes and then go watch something else.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
maybe it would have been
funny
better.
because
It
I mean,
also just spends a lot of time in that first stretch, which definitely would have been like the first episode, not having Brave Star and just setting up the
yeah,
bad
yeah. There's a
guys.
lot of exposition and explaining the setup of yeah. This is again, it's one of those ones where it exists to be a pilot for a show that didn't do well. But it's funny because
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
heard the name Brave Star come up, and I can't remember if it's what I saw that they were doing a remake of it, a live action remake of it, or if someone said they should bring that franchise back. I can't remember, but it had come up
I
in
don't think
conversation.
I don't think you could. It's got so much style, like new text. I mean, I found myself laughing just the pure absurdity. There's one scene like when the judge and the and Lone Star are talking before they start kissing, where it literally like it just keeps panning back to him, and he's like, and for those who can't see me, it's he's just like it's just like a picture of him smiling
It's a still
as she's
frame.
staring at him
It's because
like
it's
for an entire frame, and his head just kind of turns like like as if he's like, eh?
I mean, to be fair, that has everything to do with the fact that it's done by Filmation, and they were
Oh
cheap.
yeah,
They did a lot of
yeah.
just still, but no, it's the space cowboy. He's a Native American hero stuff that people are interested in. So yeah, they could do space cowboys. They've done Space Game of Thrones 100 times. They could do space cowboys.
It's just
I'm not
so
into space
absurd.
cowboys, but they could do space cow. So is that it, Jordan? Is that all you had to say on Brave Star?
I mean, if they're gonna do that, that is all I. But if they're gonna do that and they're gonna do whatever modern version, just don't make it so they're driving around in space carriages and like riding around on space robot horses. Like you can have it where they're wearing like they're in a town which looks vague, but just don't make it all. Make it make sense.
It's one of those franchises you could easily strip it for parts, take the name, take the basic premise of it, and say it's based on, and call it the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm surprised they haven't made a movie of it, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah, it's one of those franchises where they've tried to bring He-Man a bunch of thousand times, but there's a bunch of his knockoffs, which you easily could and
Yeah.
make it today and it distincted enough that it would be different. Okay, so I guess it's just time for Justin's book reports. Um, okay, okay, we're gonna start off with one that is we're gonna kind of lump two together because they're both Canadian and they're both. I don't think one of them is by Nelvana, but one of them is definitely from Nelvana, and that's Nihilus the Sandman and
I
Pippi
love Nihilus
Longstocking.
the Sandman. Oh,
Um,
good choices. Good
um,
choices.
Now, I don't know if those are obscure or not. They're Canadian, so maybe they're not obscure. But Nihilus the Sandman, I'm gonna lump it and Pippi together because Nihilus was 220. I only watched two 25-minute specials. I wanted to watch the show, but I couldn't find it. I can only find like the intro, and it's
That's
good.
how obscure it
And it's one of those
is.
things where it's like 90s animation and 80s animation. Yeah, there's so much more effort put into it than there is today, which is ironic because the technology to do it easier is there. But there's just so much more creativity and in Nihilus and Pippi, the music's good. It's like, man, you think Disney can only do, but like there's actual like yeah, spirit to this, and it's really good. And the one of them there's two specials and they're basically they're kids affairs, so the plot's very basic. Like the one
Yeah.
is it's a for those of you who I guess maybe I should explain what Nihilus the Sandman is. um Nihilus the Sandman is a character from a Canadian television show, and it's more or less exactly what it sounds like. He's a Sandman, and the bit is he travels into kids' dreams, and the kid has a conflict at the beginning of the episode, and it's in live action, or in this case, specials, because they did 3 specials, which led into the TV show. But the specials, they feature a kid. The kid's got a conflict. So in the 2 specials, I was gonna watch all 3, but I forgot to watch the 3rd one. But the 2 I watched, the first one is she's a new girl, and it's about her learning how to fit in. And there's a bunch of really good musical numbers. There's one that involves Donny Osmond. It's like all the music is catchy. The theme song is catchy as fuck.
I love the
And
theme
then the
song.
second one is it's a kid, and
He's scared of the dark.
he's scared of the dark. He's scared of the monsters in his closet, and it's about learning that things aren't always as what they appear to be. And that one's actually kind of frightening. Like some of the monsters, like some
It
of the sequences are legit, like they're uncomfy.
and
Like
it's got some like the
when you
stingers,
approach it
like
from the
the
perspective
violin.
of a kid.
The violin that it
The
plays like in the
violin, the
beginning is
music.
so good,
I
or
think I
fiddle or whatever it
yeah
is.
yeah when he meets the Nightmare King and it says like
Yeah.
da, da, da,
Da, da,
it
da,
was like
da.
made me think of Final Fantasy. It's good music. Like the score is good. Like the effort is weirdly it's there. Um,
Yeah,
and then Pippi Longstocking, she's quite
I
a
love it.
famous
Yeah,
uh,
she's a favorite.
she's quite a famous Swedish storybook character that I don't know if Americans know. Canadians might. And she's a little girl, and her dad's a pirate and a sailor, and travels around. So she lives by herself, and she's eccentric and doesn't fit in with the adults who don't understand her. But kids love her. And what's really interesting, actually, I did go and briefly watch some of the live action stuff, and what that animated movie took from the because this is a character that had movies and TV shows in like Sweden. We watched it. We used to rent the live action ones from the library years and years ago.
I'm aware that there's a live action one. I just don't remember it.
Yeah, and they were dubbed. It was like one of our first experiences with live action dubs, but it's in
Also,
Swedish.
while I'm thinking of it, you know what we should do after is we should any of these that are on YouTube, we should put the link to them in the Discord.
Oh yeah, 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 that'd be a good one.
so
I'm
that
nervous
people can watch
about
it.
sharing obscure stuff because I don't want to get copyright struck and get taken down. That's where I get nervous. But yes, I will probably do that. But Pippi. So yeah, Pippi is quite a well known character in Sweden. And so there's a scene in the movie where she's cleaning the house and she's like skating along the ground with the brushes on her feet.
Right.
That's from the live action stuff from the 70s.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
yeah.
That's fun.
And same with the school. Her going to school.
Oh, she's such a shit disturber in that
That's
scene.
ripped. And what's funny is like in the animated movie, it goes to that whole bit where she's like the teacher's trying to get her to participate in class, and she's asking her math questions, and she's like, "What's 2 times 2?" And she's like, well, "Don't you know?" It's like, "Yeah, it's 4." Well, if you don't know, why are you asking me? That scene is different in the live action version where it's like she's like, "Well, I'm asking you because this is a test of what you know." Like I'm testing, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, and they do the whole bit. They sing a song. It's not quite the same, but I was surprised by how much of this was like fairly 1-to-1. And it's another one of those examples of like, I'm an adult now, and I no longer see things from a child's perspective, but it's still cute, and the music is good.
Cute.
The
That's
orchestration
the thing.
on the music is
That's the
good.
thing that
It's
I remember is I
good
remember
music.
loving the music. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the girl who's playing Pippi. She's a good singer. Also, I fully understand why they recast Thunder Carlson for the TV show. His voice does not match that character.
Isn't he also just a really, really famous one in the movie and they couldn't get him back?
Is he? I honestly don't know. I didn't recognize any names.
I just seem to remember that being a thing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's me misremembering. But
Fascinating, because I didn't know that.
I remember it being where he was well
Interesting.
known.
So yeah, so
But
those were fun. Those were
maybe
cute.
I'm wrong.
I enjoyed those, and they were One thing about doing animation this week was as difficult as it was to find. Watching was not difficult. It was easy to knock these
Right.
things out fast.
I really appreciated that.
Moving into my second thing I've seen, I watched both heavy metal movies.
Ooh.
Now I don't know if heavy metal is obscure or not. I don't know.
I
if
did
it
watch 2000, and I could.
I watched the original, and it's funny. So for every negative thing, I'm gonna say a lot of positive things about. You know what? We'll work backwards. We'll do the second one first. No, actually, I lied. We won't do the second one first. We'll do the first one first. The first one's good. It's good. It's good in like a. I appreciate it for what it is. It's not a good movie per se, but in terms of what it's contributed, one of those. I believe it contributes to cinema. It's experimental. Have you ever seen the original Heavy Metal? I think I asked you this already. Have you seen? No.
No.
I'd recommend it, but it's not on anything. I had to seek it out through other means. But it basically, for those who haven't seen Heavy Metal, it's a loose adaptation of a magazine of the same name, Heavy Metal Magazine, and it's an anthology movie featuring different segments all tied together. Obviously, it's an anthology with a central theme and idea.
That I know.
So in the original, it's all centered around this evil gem called the Lochnar, and so each of these segments are a story involving the Lochnar. So it's like someone's trying to get it, someone's trying to fight it. So each of these segments are all animated by a different animation, and they're all different. They all look different. They all have a different look to it, and each of these stories are all interesting enough in and of themselves. So it opens with and all of the stories are all based off of comic runs from that magazine, basically. So the first one is it's an astronaut.
Interesting.
And he's in a car. He lands this car. He juts out of his spaceship and he like flies it through space and he lands it, and it's like 3D. It's like 3D CGI, and this is like early 1980s, so it's very early CGI. And it's stylistic and it looks cool. And the astronaut walks out and he's found this stone, this glowing green stone, and the glowing green stone bursts out, and it's like he has a voice. He's like, "I'm the Lochnar. I've been around forever. I'll be around forever, and I'm stupid fucking evil. Here are all these stories about how I'm stupid fucking evil." And the first one is like it's like a neo-noir kind of story about this cab driver who lives in a dystopian future, and he's a cab driver, and people try to rob him, and he's got like a disintegration ray that if people try to rob him, he's like, why the fuck would you? And then he disintegrates them. And he happens to run into this woman whose dad had basically studying the Lochnar, and these gangsters and there's this whole thing with aliens from space, and they're treated like illegal immigrants, sort of. And there's a gangster who's trying to get it, and it's the woman and the guy fall in love, and then the thing she turns out in the end that she's actually basically double crossed him. It's a detective story, and it's very similar to it's actually now that I'm thinking about it. You wouldn't know this by reference, but it's a lot like the Maltese Falcon, where it's about trying to get this item, and then the girl betrays him in the end, and he kills her. And it's like, that's just another day in the life, and then it moves on to the next story.
Right.
And then I'm not gonna remember all of them. Shit, hold on. You know what? I've got it open. I don't know why I'm not just. I pulled up the Wikipedia article for a reason. I'm not gonna do it word for word. I'm just gonna do a look. Okay. So the first one, that's the second one. The Harry Canyon, that's the one I just told you about. That's what it was, Den. And then the next one is like a power fantasy, and that one was actually a long-running comic book. It's called Den. It's basically about this nerd who finds the Lochnar, and he gets struck by lightning, and it sends him to this like fantasy He-Man style world where he's now like a barbarian type. Like he's now he was like a scrawny nerd, and now he's like a big muscular black guy who's hung like a tree trunk, and like all the hot women and there's boobs in this, by the way, and all the hot women are super into him, and he has to like seduce this evil queen to get the Lochnar from him, and it's this basic fantasy story, and it's the animation is once again different, and it's experimental, and it's interesting, and the next one. It's Captain Sturm, and this is and the casting in this was so interesting. Like it's got like Eugene Levy, it's got John Candy, it's got it's produced by Ivan Reitman, who did Ghostbusters, and so the second one is basically this captain who's basically Zap Brannigan. He's voiced by Eugene Levy. He's basically Zap Brannigan, but like 1,000 times worse. Like he's being charged for like murder and rape and all sorts of nasty shit. And he's on trial. God. And he's bribed. He's said he's gonna pay this guy to say nice things about him. And the guy, he finds the Lochnar. It's like a little stone, and it turns him into this gigantic monstrous guy who tries to murder him for lying. He's like, he's a big liar. And the guy, and that's it. That's the basics of it. And then the other one is. It lands during World War One, World War Two. Hold on. Oh, I haven't actually seen this. I don't remember that one. That one doesn't matter. Yeah, there's one where he lands in like World War Two, and the Lochnar turns all these people into zombies, and it kind of looks like that's the one. You remember the fractured butthole?
Of course, I remember the fractured butthole.
You remember Gerald's summon?
Yeah.
It's that.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
interesting.
And I don't think you've seen have you seen the episode that bit's from him cheesing? Have you seen that episode? You know that
I don't think so.
Well, there's a bit where it's Kenny and he's driving the car and he's got the big titted chick, and that's in reference to the astronaut car from the first one. Oh right, and then the next one is my favorite one, which is the one where it's the jobber kind of like construction guys, robots or whatever. They're searching for some sort of element, and they try to pick up a doctor, and it's a robot and two guys, and they pick up the doctor and then his stenographer who's super hot, and that's where the robot, he has sex with her, and he tries to get her to marry her in the end.
Weird.
It's really weird, and there's a really long scene of these guys doing what is essentially space cocaine. And then the last one. So there's this framing device basically of this little girl who he's basically torturing and telling these stories to. And there's a story of this ancient warrior race who's like destined to defeat him, and he basically exists through all out time. And the story is very basically that the Lochnars, and now it's a meteor and it's landed, and it turns all these guys into basically zombie evil guys who are trying to like kill everybody basically, and this village that's being invaded, they summon this like ancient warrior race, and there's only one left, and it's this girl, and there's this really long scene. She's the one who's on the cover, if you've ever seen the cover of Heavy Metal, and there's this really long scene of her taking her clothes off and being naked, and that's a lot of this movie.
So,
It's just unnecessary, gratuitous nudity and violence.
so how long is this one?
It's only about an hour and a half.
Hour and a half?
Yeah, thereabouts.
And each story is like what, 15 minutes, 20 minutes?
10, 15 minutes, yeah.
Interesting.
And it's
Interesting.
they're all interesting, and they all could be there. I would watch each of these as their we'll get to it, but I would watch each of these movies in its own right, and then it ends with the chick from the last segment. She kills the Lochnar in her segment, and since she killed it, it dies in all of time, and it explodes in front of the little girl who has been tortured the whole time, and she walks off and turns into the white-haired chick. And she becomes the new one, protector, and it's implied that the Lochnar always comes back, and she now has to fight the Lochnar. And again, it's and the soundtrack is fucking phenomenal. Like, it's got Journey. Hold on, the reason why I want to read you some of this, because we're gonna talk about the soundtrack in the next one. But it's got Blue Oyster Cult, Sammy Hagar, Cheap Trick, Don Felder, Journey, I said Cheap, Black Sabbath, Stevie Nicks. Like, it's like a good sound. Like, the music is phenomenal. It's so good, and it's just, yeah, again, it's taking chances. Now we talk about Heavy Metal 2000, which is garbage fucking garbage. It was so. It's basically that movie is essentially like they took one of those 15-minute vignettes and blew it out into a full terrible fucking movie. That's just, and I guess the key that he finds is supposed to be the Lochnar, so it's supposed to be the stone from, like, but it doesn't indicate that. And what's interesting is
all I remember is that he finds like a green stone,
and that's supposed
and
to
then
be,
he transforms into someone or
a total
something.
psychopath. He becomes
He goes crazy.
He goes completely insane. Yeah, and it's just it's so funny because I remember liking this movie when I was younger, but I watched it when I was 16, and I might have been blinded by the fact that it had boobs in it. But, like, we've talked about it already. But yeah, scenes don't transition.
I think you were.
They just kind of end. It just kind of stops and goes to black, and like the soundtrack is obnoxious and awful. Like, the 2000s idea of heavy metal and the 1980s idea of heavy metal are two completely separate things. Like,
very different things.
It was awful. It was obnoxious. It gave me a headache. It was like, I get it. It has heavy metal. And it was just, it's just generic science fiction dreck. Like, it takes place in a vague science fiction universe. What's disappointing is it was written and co-created by one of the guys who made Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Really?
Yeah, it's awful. It's upsetting. It's terrible.
That's disappointing.
I know. I was like, I fucking hate it. And it was like, I just wanted it to end just desperately. And it's one of those ones where it's like, you're like, okay, it's over now. And then it goes on for an additional 15 minutes. And you're like, like, they're like, oh yeah, they've just, like, he has a magic juice. Like, basically the whole thing is there's an evil, like, group of people who have found a fountain of youth. And this native tribe or whatever found a way to, like, stop them and seal off this fountain of youth and kill all of this group of people, and cast this key that allows them to access this fountain of youth into space, and cursed it so that whoever finds the key goes completely insane. And this guy randomly finds it, and one of basically he starts searching the galaxy for this fountain of youth, and he finds this planet which our main character lives on, who they it's like they have traces of this magic fountain in their blood, and so if he extracts their blood, he can turn them into juice that he can drink that makes him invincible. And they get destroyed, these vials get destroyed like 4 times, and the movie just keeps going. And it's like, you've stopped him like a ton. And then it was like, no, we need to run out a 90-minute runtime for something. Like,
gotta pad this bitch up.
Oh my god, it was like, it took all the creativity and spark and everything that makes the original heavy metal at least, like, interesting. and this is to me what modern animation is missing. Um, we're gonna contrast and compare it to my ones I hadn't seen, which we're gonna start with now. Um, well, okay, finding stuff I hadn't seen was tough because we grew up, as previously discussed, um, on in case that's not evident, on obscure shit. So
Yeah.
it's easy to find obscure shit I've seen. I've seen a lot of obscure shit over the years. It's hard to find obscure shit I haven't seen that isn't, like he said, um, a franchise thing. Like, yeah, I could have picked a dozen Scooby Doo movies, like,
Or Barbie.
or Barbie, or there was one in particular that kept cropping up a lot. So the first one I picked, it's one of those I pick it with an asterisk because I thought I had seen it when I was a kid, but having watched it, I'm not sure. So my first one I picked was it's a movie called Little Nemo's Adventures in Slumberland. And because you picked OVAs, I feel less bad about this for rapid fire. But I did say try to stay away from Japan because we are going to do a
You did.
Japan
You
specific
did. You
series
did say
of
that.
episodes. But this one is an anime. It is a Japanese made movie, but I feel like I can skirt the rules because it's a co-production between America and Japan. And it's about a little boy. It's kind of funny because it's sort of similar to Nihilus, where it's about a little boy who he's kind of from vaguely Victorian era kind of city, and when he goes to sleep, he goes to Slumberland. He gets invited by the king of Slumberland, who all have real world counterparts for some reason, but it never plays into the movie. So like in the real world, he wants to go. He initially has this dream where his bed like flies through the city and he nearly gets attacked by, or he nearly crashes into a train. He falls out of his bed and he goes out and like the circus is there, and he goes to his dad. He's like, I want to go to the circus, and the dad's like, not today, I'm busy, maybe tomorrow. And so then he goes to sleep, and all of the circus people are now in his dreams as characters. Like, they all look like the people who were in the circus, but it never ties into anything. There's never any real reason for it. They just look like these people. And so he gets invited to go to Slumberland, and he gets invited on a play date with the princess and to meet the king. So he gets taken to Slumberland. And it's very similar to
it's funny. Sorry, I'm gonna cut in real quick because every time you say like he get invited to Slumberland, it just makes me picture the South Park, the "Come with me to Imagination Land."
That's what it is. That I'm pretty sure that's what that episode of South Park is making fun of, because there's a whole
funny.
bit. There's a whole bit.
Imagination.
Yeah, that there's a song in this that's Slumberland, Slumberland. It's the same fucking song.
Funny.
It's the same.
My
it's
God.
the same thing. Yeah, they're in the little ship. It looks exactly the same. The character is the same character. I swear to God, it's like
that's great. That's probably what they're making fun of.
I guarantee you, it's that, and probably also Babes in Toyland. But yes,
yeah,
that's clearly what they're making fun of.
That sort of generation or era.
Nemo is a fairly famous. It's a famous comic book series, and it's very simple comics. It was a comic strip, and the idea was he'd go to sleep. He'd go to dream with Slumberland. It'd be super surreal, and then he'd wake up at the end. That was the gag. And so he gets invited, and the king of Slumberland basically decides that he wants him to be his heir proper, and become the king of Slumberland. And he has to become a prince. Oh, and the music, it's got music. It's a musical, and the music is once again done by the Sherman Brothers. Oddly enough, yeah. They keep
you know what's fun? You know what's funny is my Pinocchio one also had music in it.
Yeah, yeah. Who did the music?
Yeah.
Anyone you know?
That I don't specifically know, but
yeah.
So without looking it up.
So he goes to Slumberland. He's invited to be king, and the king gives him a king. And and in the meantime, there's sort of been this character. I don't remember. Flip. His name is Flip. He's a clown, and he's voiced by Mickey Rooney. Which is how you know this is old.
No one I recognize.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he played clown, played by Mickey Rooney. Not you know who Mickey Rooney is, right?
Probably, but for those who might not know, you should probably.
Old actor, grouchy. I think he's in Night at the Museum. I want to say. I think.
Okay.
I think I'm confusing him and Don Rickles. I am confusing him and Don, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he was in. I'm pretty sure he's one of the not Dick Van Dyke, obviously not the black one, but the other guy.
Oh, okay, the short
I'm
one.
pretty sure that's Mickey Rooney. But he's a clown and he's just a troublemaker. One of those guys. He has fun getting in trouble, and he's a big. Nobody likes him. He's like, you don't want to be friends with Flip. He's a bad guy. And Flip basically the king gives Nemo this key. He's like, this key can open any door in Slumberland, but don't open this one door. And Flip, I don't know if he intentionally tricks him into doing it, but they end up accidentally.
Sorry, I was looking him up, and I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the guy from Night at the Museum.
And so yeah, Flip tricks him into opening this door, but I don't know if he does it intentionally based on the following events of the movie. I think he just does it for fun. But he opens this door, and the Nightmare King spills out and invades Dreamland and takes the Dream King hostage, and the kid gets inceptioned like twice. He wakes up, and then it turns out it's still a dream, and then he wakes up again.
Dream within a dream within a dream.
We get at least 2 or 3 layers deep. He wakes up and it's a dream. And yeah, it's a fun movie. It's scary. I think I only ever used to watch the first half of it. I think it's what it is, because I remember my cousin always used to be like, it's scary. It's a scary movie, and I remember the poster used to freak me out. It used to give me this. It still gives me this kind of icky feeling, and now it doesn't anymore. But up until I watched it, it gave me this kind of unsettling feeling, because I remember it scaring me as a kid. And yeah, the Nightmare King he's scary. He's a scary character. He's very frightening. And they have
there's a reason he's the Nightmare King.
there's this like goo that covers everyone that kind of looks like venom, and it's really like fluid, and the characters in this are gorgeous. The animation is gorgeous, and it looks beautiful, and all the characters are so expressive and emotive and flow, and it's like, yeah, man, Japan knows how to do animation, and they know how to do animation, and it definitely makes me want to do. I want to do an old anime episode one day where we talk about anime from like the 80s, 70s, 90s, nothing modern, and we talk about how it holds up, because man, it looked phenomenal, and I was so impressed by it. And by the end of it, I couldn't. Yeah, I'm still not sure if I'd seen it before today, so that's why I was like, I'm gonna count it. And then, I went looking for a second one, because you know the rules. There's got to be 2, and man, it was a struggle, and I couldn't find one that I felt was sufficiently obscure enough. And I don't know if this counts, but I hadn't seen it.
You make the rules, so you get to decide whether it counts.
I picked Norm of the North. Have you ever heard of Norm of the North, Jordan?
I don't think so.
It's It's Rob Schneider, and he's a polar bear, and and it's really bad. It's really
that's
cheap.
Sounding familiar.
We saw a trailer for it, and it was one of those ones where the lip sync doesn't look like it matched.
Is it a foreign one that's like dubbed?
It looks
weirdly?
like it, but no, it's not. It looks like it is, like, because it's animated so poorly. It looks, and it's so cheaply.
That sounds like a slog. Then
it was okay. It wasn't. It's one of those animated movies that is engineered in a lab to be made into a trailer to trick parents into watching it.
To get butts in the seat.
Shockingly, I'm not going to pull the numbers up because I can't be bothered, but it didn't bomb. Incredibly. And there's 4 sequels. 4 sequels to this thing. It's incredible.
Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot of sequels.
I'll do the plot very basically, but the plot very basically is Norm is a polar bear. He lives in the Arctic, which this movie thinks consists...
I recognize the name.
This movie thinks the Arctic consists of polar bears, elk, and lemmings, and seals, and that's
lemmings,
and 1 killer whale, and 1
lemmings.
Killer whale, a solo killer whale.
That's weird.
Yes.
That's the part that's weird to me, is the lemmings.
No, lemmings do very much live in the Arctic.
Do they?
Oh yeah, they very much do.
Huh.
Yeah.
I guess that shows what I know about lemmings.
They live in the tundra. So they live in the, they do.
I guess my reason for thinking they don't is because in Zootopia they don't live in the snow area.
No. They're from the tundra. So they do. Yeah.
So they
Um,
should have been in Tundra Town then.
that's where the image of the lemmings falling off the cliffs come from, because they that's anyway. So
Interesting.
uh, uh, shit. I've lost the name. What did I say?
Let Norm of the North.
Norm. Thank you. Norm is a polar bear. Lives in the north, and he has the inexplicable power.
Like the name.
Yeah.
Oh, it all makes sense
Yeah.
now. Norm of the
Yeah.
North. He lives in the North.
He has
Okay, go on.
he has
I'm in.
he has the
I'm on board.
inexplicable ability to talk to humans. He can speak human. There's no rhyme or reason for it. There's no explanation for it. But him and his grandpa can both talk to humans.
Are they like happy magical polar bears and that's why they can
Regular polar bears.
just
But it's
in
one of
this
those
world
movies
polar
where
bears talk?
it's one of those
Cool.
movies where all of
Got
the
it.
animals are anthropomorphic, so they all act with human characteristics and tendencies. But only Norm can talk. Well, they all talk, but he's the only one who can speak to humans. Otherwise, all the humans hear growling and animal sounds. Um,
All right.
and
That's a
so
thing.
and so humans have started to visit the tundra, the Arctic, because they're humans. And one human in particular has decided that they want to build condos in the Arctic. And so
Where else would you build them? Why
um,
why a beach when you can go to the north?
he sees this guy filming this commercial. He chases them off or whatever, and this girl shows up, and he basically saves her from falling in ice, and she films him chasing after, thinking that she's like, oh, this is how we can market moving to the Arctic. It's like a safari that you live in. Um, and so he phones his boss, played by Dr. Ken himself, Ken Jeong. Um, she calls her boss, and he's basically like, oh, find an actor who looks just like that polar bear and get that polar bear to help us sell the idea of building these condos in the Arctic. Um, and so
And maybe give him a Coca-Cola while he's doing
and
it.
so basically,
Glug.
very long story, very short. Norm decides that he's gonna pretend to be a human dressed as a polar bear so that he can go try to build enough popularity so that he can, at the last second, instead of being like build homes in the Arctic, don't do that. Instead, save the Arctic. And that's the plot of the movie, basically. Shenanigans ensue. And it's like immediately I'm like, no one would ever move to the Arctic. This is absurd on its face. But the movie at the very least points that out. The movie, a part of the plot of the movie is he's essentially trying to convince this council of people who own the land rights to let him build there. Otherwise, it's against the law. And he's basically bribing them to let him do this. By offering to build a home in like the Bahamas or whatever for her, and she's like, "Yeah, no one would ever move to the Arctic." This is so like, okay, good.
No.
At least this movie is articulating that, and it's like, yeah, this movie was like engineered in a lab because it's knocking off so many things. It's knocking off Lion King. There's a bird character that's literally just Zazu. There's a plot point about becoming the king of the North that goes nowhere and is nothing.
Oh,
so,
I just can't wait to be king of the North.
So the dad, Norm's dad is the king, and at the end he's got his own Zazu, and then there's a bit, the thing constantly cuts to Norm dancing, and it says random needle drops where he just dances because that looks good in the trailer. It's crazy cheap looking. But yeah, it must have been so cheap and so easy. It's one of those in like shows where okay, remember that episode of Hannah Montana where Hannah Montana has to do a voice for a cartoon?
Yeah,
it's like this is the cartoon they made.
So bad.
Like, yeah, it's like they got Rob Schneider in a voice booth for a couple days and just had him read a script. Like it's like, there's moments where there's the occasional funny joke.
This is a paycheck.
Yeah, so many actors in this. Like, this is a paycheck. This is a paycheck. No one felt like this was.
There's no passion for Norm of the North. This is just money.
These are cheap and easy, and we can stick it in front of a kid, and they won't think too much about it.
Yeah,
it was
definitely.
it was bad, and I was like, and contrasted. Compare and contrast it to, because this is a book report. We're gonna compare and contrast it to heavy metal, where everything I said about heavy metal, but how it was creative, but how it was experimental, but how it was trying to do something, say something, be something, have an identity. This is where we were talking about this off camera. We were talking about how everything just wants to be Disney and wants to be sanitized and wants to be like safe and easy and sell to kids who are stupid. And it's like we know this because I'll never forget when we went to watch How to Train Your Dragon 2, and there was this emotional moment where it was like, this is solid filmmaking, and this is what makes this a strong movie, and the kids behind me are bored, and it's like, this is why we get Norm of the North. Like, it's like, that was the thing.
Unfortunately,
when I was watching all of these movies, all of the stuff in the 80s and the 90s, this is why I went to the 80s and 90s for my animation, and I didn't pick any. You'll notice we didn't pick anything from the 2000s.
I did.
I did because I picked Norm of the North.
I picked Delgo.
Oh, true. Yeah, that's fair. I see. I've already forgotten about Delgo, but you'll notice for the most part,
it's so forgettable.
Yeah, I've already forgotten it. But no, we generally kept to the 80s and 90s because that's when they were taking chances. That's when they were taking, like, I said that about the Peanut stuff. I picked some animation over the past few weeks, and it's all been 1,000 times more creative than anything Disney is doing today. Where it's just like, yeah, Elemental, we're doing Zootopia again. I haven't seen Wish. I heard that's like, it's basically AI generated Disney. Like,
I haven't seen. Is that out on Disney Plus yet? Because that's what I'm waiting for.
Same.
I will give it a glance when I don't have to go watch it in a theater.
Yep, I'm the same way for that one. I said the same thing for Elemental too.
Yeah, I waited for that one as well.
So that is obscure animation. That now we're gonna pass the question off.
Well, the question is it? Is it obscure animation?
We are now passing the question off. What were those obscure? What are some of your obscure ones that you think? There was way more I could have picked that I didn't.
There is a lot that I didn't.
Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the animated series. Is that obscure? Is that obscure?
Felix the animated movie.
Felix the Cat. Yeah, we were gonna do Felix the Cat, and we both decided not to do Felix the Cat.
What else? There was a few other ones. But yeah, Nate, Reboot. I almost picked Reboot.
Drop a few in the comments.
Let us know.
Let us know if are there any that you're familiar with.
And you drop some, and we'll tell you if we've seen them and if we think they're obscure.
We think they're obscure, exactly. Yeah. So
boom, engagement.
Boom engagement. With that, it's time for the assignment for next week, Jordan. It's time for everyone's assignment, and I promised that this week was going to be easier, and it will be. This week we're going sports ball, baby. This week the theme. Sports movies. Now, that comes with an asterisk.
Sports movies.
That comes with an asterisk. I am asking you to get creative. Okay, get creative with your sports movies. I mean, if it's maybe pick one that's like it's a sports movie. Technically, if you squint at it, maybe get a little creative. Maybe don't get creative. All I'm going to ask for Jordan is don't tell me the movie. We're gonna do surprise this week. We're not going to tell each other. But tell me what the sport is.
Two I've seen, two I haven't.
Yeah. But let me know what the sport is, because I have a specific idea for the sport I'm going to do.
Clarifying question. If I came to you and I'm like, football, do all my movies have to be football?
No, but what I ask is that all mine are going to have the same theme. Okay. I'm going to do MMA/fighting.
Okay.
All my movies are going to involve MMA/fighting.
I have to think.
So all I ask is that you don't pick any movies that involve MMA and fighting.
No, that's fair.
So like, if you wanted to pick,
I have a few ideas.
So like as an example, for the audience, Air Bud, technically a basketball movie.
It depends on which Air Bud movie you pick.
That's the kind of thing we're thinking about. So we're going to say sports movies. You can be as traditional as you want, but I would encourage you to not be traditional.
I have a few ideas.
So that's next week. Next week it's sports ball time. With that, that has been another episode of the Spur of the Moment podcast. As always, you can find us on our Discord at the Spur of the Moment podcast. You can email the show if you want to sponsor the show, or you want to send some suggestions. Generally, ask us how we're doing. Communicate via email. You can do that. As always, all I ask is don't send me any pictures of your genitals. That's it's Justin's business at gmail.com. Don't worry, that will be in the description as well. I am, as always, I'm on TikTok. You can find me on TikTok at Justin Spurr. We're there. We're doing the same stuff we're doing here. If you don't want to sit through the whole podcast, don't you worry. Clips of the podcast go up there, as well as shorts on here. You can check that out. I ask you to leave a comment on any of our shorts. Leave a like. You're going to see some shorts from this coming in the next few days. Let's talk about some stuff. Jordan, where can people find you?
I am on Twitch. I do Minecraft Monday. I am Zethgore187.
And try to show up a little bit more for Jordan on his, because who knows, maybe he'll add another day to his schedule in the future again. We don't know. It might happen.
Maybe. Who knows?
Who knows? If you show up and you encourage him enough, maybe there could be a Minecraft Tuesday.
You know, maybe I'll start doing watch parties where I let you guys join me as I watch these movies.
Exactly. But that is at Jordan. Say that. Where are you again?
Zethgore187 on Twitch and YouTube. I have my own YouTube technically.
And on YouTube. And as always, we are the Spur of the Moment podcast. Have a good week, everyone. We will see you next week.
See ya.